I want to start with a direct question. Have you ever wondered why your desires take so long to manifest despite all your efforts? It seems like the universe simply doesn't respond. Today, I'm going to reveal a secret that will not only change the way you see the world, but will completely revolutionize your approach to life. This secret is so powerful that once you understand it, you'll begin to see results that others will call miraculous. Now, pay close attention because this is not something you've heard before. In the book of John, it is written, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." But what does this word really mean? It's not simply something you pronounce with your lips. The true word is your inner conversation, that mental dialogue that never stops and runs through your mind day and night. Most people fail to manifest their desires because they don't understand this fundamental truth. Your inner conversation is the cause of absolutely everything in your world. Not some things, not most things, but everything. Think about this. Every thought, every doubt, every belief you hold within you is shaping your reality. Manifestation isn't delayed by external factors, but by the inconsistency of your inner dialogue. And when you truly understand this, you'll begin to manifest your desires with a speed that will surprise even the most skeptical. Let me tell you a real story that illustrates this principle. A woman came to me after a conference, her eyes filled with tears. She had spent 3 years trying to reconnect with her son, who had distanced himself from her. She had tried everything: affirmations, visualization. She had even traveled across the country to try to see him, but nothing worked. Do you know why? Because her inner conversation kept repeating, "Why doesn't my son want to talk to me? What did I do wrong? Will he ever forgive me?" Without realizing it, she was perpetuating her state of separation through her own inner dialogue. When I explained the power of her inner conversation, I asked her to change those words to something completely different. "How wonderful it is to talk to my son every day. How lovely it is to hear his voice full of love for me." And in just 1 week, her son called her. Not only that, but he apologized for his behavior and expressed his desire to rebuild their relationship. Magic? No, it's the law of manifestation in action. Here's the first great secret. Your inner conversation must match the state you wish to occupy. There can be no contradiction between what you desire and what you tell yourself internally about that desire. If you want abundance, but your mind keeps repeating, "I never have enough," then that's exactly what you'll manifest. Let's dive deeper into this. In the book of Matthew, it is said, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Your treasure isn't simply your desire, it's your inner conversation about that desire. If you claim to want wealth, but in your mind you keep saying, "Everything is expensive, I can't afford this," then your true treasure is scarcity, and that's what you'll see reflected in your life. The speed at which your desires manifest is directly proportional to the consistency of your inner conversation. If your inner dialogue is aligned with what you desire, without contradictions, without doubts, without hesitation, manifestation will happen as naturally as day follows night. Now you might be thinking, "But I try to keep positive thoughts, and I still don't see results." Here's where many fail. They try to force their inner conversation, to control it with sheer willpower. But that's not the way. The secret lies in assuming the state you desire. When you truly assume a state, the inner conversation appropriate to that state flows naturally. Imagine you are truly rich in consciousness. You don't need to force yourself to think thoughts of wealth. The inner dialogue of a wealthy person flows spontaneously because it's natural to the state you've assumed. I invite you to do an experiment tonight. When you go to bed, don't try to visualize your desire or repeat affirmations. Simply listen to your inner conversation. Observe what you're telling yourself about yourself, your life, your relationships, your finances. This awareness is crucial because you'll discover that your current inner conversation is a perfect reflection of your current situation. Every detail of your life right now is a direct manifestation of your habitual inner dialogue. And here's the key to changing your outer world. You must first change your inner conversation, but it's not about doing it by force. You must assume the state of your desire fulfilled and let the inner dialogue flow effortlessly. When you do this, the change is inevitable. Now that you understand the importance of your inner conversation, it's time to dive into an even more powerful principle, the I am. This concept not only defines who you are in the present, but also determines what you'll experience in your life. Every time you say I am, you're activating a creative force that shapes your reality, whether you're aware of it or not. In the book of Revelation, it is written, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. This doesn't refer to an external deity, but to your consciousness. Your I am is the most powerful tool you possess. Every time you engage in an inner dialogue, you're defining who you are and therefore what you'll attract into your life. When you say internally, I'm struggling, I'm trying to manifest, I'm waiting for my desire to come true, you're creating precisely those conditions. You're perpetuating the state of struggle, of waiting, of lack. The secret to manifesting quickly isn't to desire something, but to be that something in your consciousness. Don't say, I want to be successful. Affirm internally, I am successful. But here's where many get confused. It's not just about repeating empty words. Your I am must be backed by a feeling. You must feel that you already are the person you desire to be. Consider this example. A woman who wants to get married might repeat 1,000 times a day, I'm happily married. However, if during the rest of the day her inner conversation is filled with thoughts of loneliness, doubt about finding the right person, or worries about the future, then what she's really manifesting is more loneliness and doubt. But when she assumes the state of being a happily married woman, her inner conversation changes naturally. She begins to think in terms of, my husband always surprises me with small gestures of love, or I love planning our vacations together. These words aren't just affirmations. They're natural expressions of an assumed state. Here's the fundamental truth. Manifestation doesn't happen when you desire something, but when you assume the state of already having it. When your inner conversation reflects that state without contradictions, the physical reality must align with your consciousness. It's not a question of if it will happen, but when. And the when accelerates as your inner dialogue becomes consistent with your fulfilled desire. Now, a word of caution, many try to monitor every negative thought, obsessing over eliminating any doubt or contradiction. But this approach only creates tension and slows down manifestation. It's not about controlling every thought, but about assuming the right state. When you assume the state of your desire fulfilled, the appropriate inner conversation flows naturally, without effort. Think of it like tuning a radio station. You don't need to struggle to hear the right music. You simply adjust the frequency and the music flows. In the same way, when you adjust your consciousness to the state of your desire fulfilled, the right thoughts and feelings flow effortlessly. This principle is so powerful that even your fears can manifest if you're not aware of how it works. In the book of Job, it is written, what I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. Your fears and worries aren't passive thoughts. They're inner conversations that create your reality with the same certainty as your desires. That's why it's crucial to be conscious of what you're feeding your mind. When others talk about economic difficulties, hard times, or impossibilities, remember that those conversations have no power in your world unless you accept them in your inner dialogue. The only creative power resides in your own inner conversation. You are the creator of your reality, and what you accept as true in your consciousness will inevitably manifest in your life. Let me share the story of a businessman who attended one of my conferences in New York. He was an entrepreneur who had heard numerous experts predict a recession in his industry. Everyone around him was preparing for failure, cutting costs, laying off employees, scaling back operations. But this man understood the secret of the inner conversation. While others spoke of decline and difficulties, he maintained a firm and positive inner dialogue. My business is thriving. My clients are abundant. Opportunities flow to me from all directions. His colleagues called him delusional, unrealistic. But in 3 months, while other companies struggled to stay afloat, his company had the most profitable quarter in its history. Was this a coincidence? No, it was the law in action. His inner conversation created a state of consciousness that had to manifest in his external reality. There's no other explanation. The outer world simply responded to the internal frequency he had established. Now, there's an even deeper aspect you need to understand if you want to accelerate your manifestations. Your inner conversation must not only match your desire, but also transcend time. Notice how most people talk about the future. I will be successful. I will find love. Things will get better. This type of inner conversation perpetually pushes your desires into the future, keeping them always out of reach. The secret is to have an inner conversation that speaks from the present, as if your desire is already fulfilled. In the book of Isaiah, it is said, "Before they call, I will answer." This doesn't refer to an external God answering prayers, but to the law of consciousness. Your inner conversation of the desire fulfilled is the answer and precedes the physical manifestation. Be very specific with this. If you desire financial abundance, your inner conversation shouldn't be, "Money is coming to me," or "I'm attracting wealth." While these phrases seem positive, they still speak from a place of lack, of something that hasn't yet arrived. Instead, your inner dialogue must be that of a person already living in abundance. I love how easily money flows into my life. It's wonderful to have more than enough to share. I enjoy choosing the best of everything. Some might wonder, isn't this denying reality? Isn't it lying to yourself? But let me clarify this once and for all. What you call reality is simply the external projection of your past inner conversations. Your current circumstances, which seem so solid and real, are nothing more than yesterday's inner dialogue made visible. In the book of Hebrews it is written, "By faith we understand that the worlds were formed by the word of God, so that what is seen was made from what is unseen." Replace word of God with inner conversation, and you have the exact law I'm revealing to you today. The things you see, your current circumstances, were created by the invisible power of your inner dialogue. This principle is not only powerful, it's the key to radically and rapidly transforming your life. And now that you understand it, it's your responsibility to apply it consciously in every aspect of your life. Now that you understand how your inner conversation shapes your reality, it's time to introduce an essential element that many people overlook. Emotion. It's not enough to simply think or say positive affirmations. The real magic happens when those words are infused with the appropriate feeling. The emotional tone behind your inner conversation is the fuel that accelerates manifestation. Think about this. Have you ever repeated affirmations like, "I'm successful," or "I'm in perfect health," but without feeling a real connection to those words? If those affirmations feel empty, it's because they lack the most crucial element, the feeling of the desire fulfilled. In the book of Psalms, it is said, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will grant you the desires of your heart." This delight doesn't refer to superficial joy. It's the deep emotional tone that must accompany your inner conversation. When you assume a state emotionally, your inner dialogue naturally aligns with that state. You don't need to force yourself to think positive thoughts. They flow spontaneously because you're living emotionally in that desired state. Consider the case of a woman who wants to get married. She might repeat the affirmation, "I'm happily married," 1,000 times a day, but if the rest of the day her inner conversation is filled with feelings of loneliness, doubt, and anxiety, those emotions are what's really manifesting her reality. On the other hand, when she assumes the feeling of being a loved wife, her inner conversation changes automatically. She doesn't need to force herself to think positively. Her natural thoughts become, "I love cooking dinner with my husband. I enjoy our nightly walks together. I'm so grateful to share my life with my soulmate." These aren't just words, they're authentic expressions of an assumed emotional state, and it's this emotional state that creates the reality she'll experience. Emotion not only accelerates manifestation, it makes it inevitable. The universe doesn't respond only to what you say, but to how you feel about what you say. You can affirm that you're rich, but if you feel fear or anxiety when you think about your finances, those emotions are creating a vibration of lack. The secret is to align not only your words, but also your feelings with the desired state. Here's something few understand. The subconscious mind, which is the true engine of manifestation, doesn't respond to empty words. It responds to the emotion those words carry. If you repeat, "I'm in perfect health," but feel worry about your symptoms, your subconscious will register the worry, not the words. That's why it's vital that your affirmations are infused with the authentic feeling of the desire fulfilled. Now, how can you cultivate this feeling when your current circumstances seem to contradict it? The answer lies in conscious assumption. Instead of reacting to what you see in the outer world, You must act as if you're already living the reality you desire. This isn't pretending or deceiving yourself. It's a conscious act of creation. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this principle perfectly. A man had been struggling for years to get a promotion at his company. Every night as he went to sleep, his inner conversation revolved around how to achieve that promotion, what he needed to do, who he needed to impress, what strategies to follow. His inner dialogue was focused on seeking, never on having. I suggested he change his approach completely. Instead of thinking about how to get the promotion, he should assume the feeling of already having it. I asked him to, as he fell asleep, imagine how it would feel if he were already in that position, that his inner conversations say things like, "It's wonderful to lead this team. I love the responsibility I have in this new role. I'm grateful for the opportunities this position brings me." In just 2 weeks, he was not only promoted to the position he wanted, but also received more responsibilities and a higher compensation than he had imagined. The secret wasn't just changing his thoughts, but changing the feeling behind those thoughts. Here's a practical exercise you can do to start incorporating this principle into your life. Tonight, before you go to sleep, close your eyes and relax. Instead of worrying about what you don't have or what you want to achieve, imagine that you already have what you desire. Don't just visualize the scene, feel it with all your senses. What does it feel like to be successful? What does it feel like to be in love? What does it feel like to be in perfect health? Let those emotions flood your being as you immerse yourself in the sensation that your desire is already fulfilled. The moment before falling asleep is especially powerful because your subconscious mind is more receptive. The thoughts and emotions you hold in those minutes before sleep filter into your subconscious and begin to shape your reality. That's why it's crucial that your inner conversation before sleep is infused with the feeling of the desire fulfilled. But what happens when the external reality seems to contradict what you feel? This is where emotional persistence comes into play. Don't be fooled by temporary appearances. Remember that what you see in the outer world is simply a manifestation of your past thoughts and emotions. If you persist in the new emotional state, the outer world will have no choice but to align with your new inner vibration. Consider the case of a woman who was dealing with a chronic health condition. Instead of focusing on the symptoms or medical diagnoses, she decided to change her inner conversation. She began to tell herself, "My body is strong and vital. Every cell in my body functions perfectly. I am the picture of health." But more important than the words was the feeling that accompanied those affirmations. She felt that her body was already healthy, even when symptoms were still present. Her doctors were astonished when her condition completely reversed, defying all prognoses. What made the difference? It wasn't just repeating affirmations, but feeling the reality of her desire fulfilled before it manifested physically. This principle applies to all areas of your life: finances, relationships, health, professional success. No matter what your desire is, the key is to align your inner conversation with the feeling of the desire fulfilled. When you achieve this, you'll discover that manifestation isn't a difficult or mysterious process. It's a natural flow that arises from your inner state. Remember, the universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you feel you already are. That's why emotion isn't just a complement to manifestation. It's the engine that drives it. When you understand and apply this principle, you'll become the conscious creator of your reality, and life will begin to respond to your desires with a speed and precision that will amaze you. So far, we've explored how your inner conversation and the emotional tone behind it are the fundamental pillars of manifestation. But there's another crucial factor that's often overlooked: protecting your mind from external influences. You can have the most positive and emotionally aligned inner conversation, but if you allow external voices, the opinions of others, negative news, or even your own memories of the past, to infiltrate your thoughts, you're compromising your creative power. In the book of Proverbs, it is said, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." In this context, your heart represents your consciousness and, more specifically, your inner conversation. What you allow to enter your mind will inevitably affect what manifests in your life. That's why it's essential to learn to shield your mind against negative influences that can sabotage your manifestation process. Think about this. How many times have you shared a dream or goal with someone only to receive a response filled with doubt or skepticism? Maybe you heard phrases like, "That's impossible," "Be realistic," or "The economy is bad," "Better not take risks." Although these words come from others, the real danger arises when you start repeating those same ideas in your inner dialogue. The first step to protecting your inner conversation is to become aware of how external voices influence your thoughts. Every time someone tells you something is impossible, ask yourself, am I allowing this opinion to become part of my inner truth? If the answer is yes, stop immediately. Remember, the only opinion that truly matters is the one you have about yourself and your ability to create the reality you desire. Let me share a story that illustrates this principle powerfully. A young artist came to me completely devastated. She had spent years perfecting her art, but gallery owners rejected her work, critics dismissed her talent, and her family insisted she get a real job. She was on the verge of giving up. However, instead of letting those external voices define her reality, she chose to stand firm in her inner conversation. Instead of focusing on the rejections and criticisms, she began to repeat to herself, "My art deeply touches people. Collectors value my work. My exhibitions are always successful." Maintaining this inner conversation wasn't easy. She told me it felt like standing in the middle of a storm of opposing opinions. But she persisted, and within a few months, a prestigious gallery owner discovered her work. Today, her paintings sell for significant prices, and the same critics who once rejected her now praise her unique vision. What changed? It wasn't her talent, because that was always there. What changed was her inner conversation. By protecting her mind from external negative voices, she kept her creative power intact, and the universe responded accordingly. Now you might be wondering, how can I protect my mind when I'm surrounded by negative people or in a toxic environment? The answer is simple but powerful. Don't allow their conversation to become yours. You can listen to others without absorbing their energy or beliefs. This takes practice, but over time, you'll learn to create an invisible barrier between your thoughts and external influences. Here are some practical strategies to protect your inner conversation. Choose your environment carefully. Surround yourself with people who support your growth and reinforce a positive mindset. If you can't avoid certain negative influences, like coworkers or family members, set clear boundaries about the conversations you're willing to have. Filter the information you consume. Television, social media, and news can bombard you with negative messages. Limit your exposure to these sources and consciously choose to consume content that uplifts your vibration and reinforces your goals. Create protective affirmations. Every time you hear a negative opinion, counter it with a positive affirmation. For example, if someone says, "You'll never succeed in this economy," respond internally with, "My success is inevitable. Opportunities flow to me effortlessly." Use silence as a tool. Silence is a powerful space where you can observe your thoughts without external distractions. Dedicate time each day to be in silence with yourself and assess whether your inner conversation is aligned with your desires or has been contaminated by external influences. Visualize a protective barrier. Imagine a bubble of positive energy around you that blocks any external negativity. Every time you feel a negative opinion trying to infiltrate your mind, visualize this barrier strengthening, keeping you focused and aligned with your goals. Another crucial aspect you must understand is that the negativity of others has no power over you unless you give it power. Even if someone in your environment is constantly pessimistic or critical, that doesn't mean you have to internalize their beliefs. Remember, you are the creator of your reality, and the only conversation that has power is the one you hold with yourself. Consider this other example. A businessman attended one of my conferences during a period when his industry was facing a severe recession. Experts predicted tough times, and most of his colleagues began cutting expenses, laying off employees, and scaling back operations. However, he understood the power of the inner conversation and chose not to be influenced by the general pessimism. While everyone talked about crisis and decline, he repeated internally, "My business is thriving. My clients are abundant. Opportunities flow to me from all directions." Although his colleagues considered him delusional, within 3 months his company had the most profitable quarter in its history. Coincidence? No, it was the direct manifestation of his inner conversation, protected from external negativity. This demonstrates that no matter what's happening in the outer world, what truly matters is how you choose to respond internally. Your inner conversation is the filter through which you interpret reality. And when that filter is aligned with your desires, the universe has no choice but to reflect that vibration in your life. Now, I want you to consider this. Every time you allow a negative opinion to enter your mind, you're giving away a part of your creative power. But every time you consciously choose to protect your inner conversation, you're strengthening your ability to manifest the life you desire. In summary, protecting your inner conversation isn't a secondary task in the manifestation process. It's essential. Without this protection, even the most positive affirmations can be sabotaged by doubt and fear from the outside. But when you keep your mind shielded, you become a magnet for your desires, and manifestation happens naturally and quickly. Remember, the outer world may try to influence, but only you decide which thoughts you allow to live in your mind. And those thoughts are the ones that will ultimately create your reality. Now that you've learned to protect your inner conversation from external influences, it's time to focus on another crucial aspect for rapid and effective manifestation: internal coherence. You can have the most positive thoughts and aligned emotions, but if your inner conversation is divided or full of contradictions, your manifestations will be slow, inconsistent, or even non-existent. In the book of James, it is said, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." This passage doesn't just speak of doubt, but of something deeper: internal incoherence. You can't affirm that you're rich while constantly worrying about money. You can't desire health and keep talking internally about your symptoms or physical limitations. This contradiction in your inner conversation creates a state of confusion that the universe reflects in the form of mixed or delayed results. Imagine you're driving a car. You have your foot on the gas, moving toward your destination, but at the same time, you're pressing the brake. What happens? You move slowly or not at all. That's exactly what happens when your inner conversation is divided. Every contradictory thought is like pressing the brake while trying to move forward. Consider the following example. A person wants to manifest wealth and begins to affirm, "I'm financially free. Abundance flows to me." But at the same time, their inner dialogue is full of worries like, "How am I going to pay the bills this month? Everything is so expensive. I can't afford this." Or, "I need to save every penny because I don't know if I'll have enough tomorrow." Although on the surface it seems they're working on their manifestation, their internal incoherence is sending contradictory signals to the universe. For manifestation to be rapid and effective, your inner conversation must be faithful to your assumption. What does this mean? That every thought, word, and emotion you hold must be in complete alignment with the state you wish to manifest. If you assume the state of wealth, your inner dialogue must reflect the mindset of a wealthy person. You can't think in terms of scarcity, limitation, or financial fear. You must think and feel like someone who already possesses the abundance you desire. Here's where many people stumble without realizing it. They may maintain positive affirmations for a few minutes a day, but the rest of the time, their inner conversation is on autopilot, repeating patterns of scarcity, doubt, or fear. This internal conflict is what prevents their desires from materializing. So how can you ensure you maintain this internal coherence? Constantly review your inner conversation. It's not about obsessing or monitoring every thought, but developing ongoing awareness. Every time you notice a thought that contradicts your desire, don't punish yourself. Simply acknowledge it and choose to replace it with an aligned thought. Live from the end. Instead of thinking about how you'll achieve your desire, act as if it's already fulfilled. If you desire professional success, imagine what your day-to-day would be like with that success. What would you think? How would you feel? What decisions would you make? Identify and eliminate limiting beliefs. Often our internal contradictions come from deep-seated beliefs we haven't questioned. Do you believe money is hard to earn? Do you think true love is rare or that perfect health is unattainable? These beliefs are the root of internal incoherence. Replace them with beliefs that support your desires. Use the power of micro-decisions. Every thought and decision you make daily counts. When you're shopping, do you think about how much you can spend or what you truly desire? When interacting with others, Do you feel confident in yourself or seek validation? These small decisions reinforce or weaken your internal coherence. Let me share the story of a man who understood this principle of internal coherence and changed his life in a matter of weeks. For years, he had been struggling financially. His inner conversation was full of affirmations like, "I'm attracting abundance." But at the same time, he constantly worried about his debts, checked his bank account with anxiety, and avoided spending out of fear of running out of money. His inner conversation was a battlefield between the desire for abundance and the fear of scarcity. When he understood the importance of internal coherence, he decided to make a radical change. Instead of thinking about attracting wealth, he began to live as if he were already financially free. I don't mean he started spending irresponsibly, but he changed his mindset. He started telling himself, "I love having more than enough. I enjoy choosing the best without worrying about the price. Money flows easily to me from multiple sources." But beyond the words, he felt this abundance in every daily decision. Instead of worrying when paying bills, he did so with gratitude, knowing there would always be more. Instead of avoiding investments out of fear of failure, he began to see opportunities everywhere. And in a matter of weeks, his reality changed. Unexpected opportunities appeared. An old client contacted him with a lucrative offer, and a forgotten investment began to yield results. What changed? It wasn't the outer world, it was his internal coherence. By completely aligning his thoughts, words, and emotions with the state of abundance, he created a magnetic field that attracted exactly what he desired. This principle applies to any area of your life: relationships, health, professional success, personal growth. The key question you must ask yourself is, am I being faithful to my assumption? If you desire love, do you feel loved internally? If you desire health, do you think and act like a healthy person? If you desire success, does your inner conversation reflect the confidence of someone successful? Remember, the universe doesn't respond to your superficial desires. It responds to the constant vibration you emit through your inner conversation. Coherence is the bridge that connects your thoughts to the reality you experience. When you eliminate internal contradictions, manifestation becomes a fluid, natural, and inevitable process. After understanding the importance of the inner conversation, emotion is the engine of manifestation, protecting your mind, and internal coherence, we arrive at the final step, the constant and deliberate application of these principles to transform your life. Knowing these concepts isn't enough. The real change happens when you live them day by day, moment by moment. Your inner conversation is like the rudder of a ship. Every thought, word, and emotion you hold is a direction you give to your life. If you're not conscious of how you're navigating, you're likely to end up in a place you don't want. But if you take control of your inner dialogue and consistently align it with your desires, you'll not only reach what you want, but also develop an unshakable sense of personal power. In the book of Romans, it is said, "Call those things which are not as though they were." This isn't just a motivational phrase. It's the exact description of how manifestation works. Don't wait for external circumstances to change to feel successful, healthy, or loved. First, change your inner conversation, and the outer world will inevitably follow. Let me share the story of a man who applied this principle masterfully. He had been seeking a promotion at his job for years. Despite working hard and proving his worth, the opportunity never came. His inner conversation was full of frustration. What more do I have to do to be recognized? They never value me as I deserve. Maybe I'm not good enough. When he understood the power of the inner conversation, he made a radical change. Instead of focusing on the lack of recognition, he began to assume the state of already having the promotion. Every night as he fell asleep, he told himself, "It's wonderful to have this responsibility. I love leading my team. I'm grateful for the trust the company has placed in me." But beyond the words, he felt the satisfaction and confidence of already being in that position. In less than 2 weeks, he not only received the promotion he desired, but was also offered more responsibilities and a higher salary than he had imagined. The real miracle wasn't the promotion itself, but the change in his inner conversation. The outer world simply reflected his new state of consciousness. Now here's the most important lesson. There's no one to change but yourself. The world you see, with all its challenges and opportunities, is nothing more than a mirror of your inner conversation. If you want to change your circumstances, don't try to change others, the environment, or external conditions. Change your inner dialogue, and everything else will align. Most people believe they need to see results before changing their mindset. They think, when I get the job, I'll feel successful, or when I find love, I'll feel complete. But this approach is completely wrong. You must first feel successful, loved, complete in your inner world, and then the world will reflect that reality. This principle is so powerful that it works both positively and negatively. If your inner conversation is full of fear, doubt, or complaint, the world will reflect those vibrations in the form of problems, obstacles, and frustrations. But when you change your inner conversation to gratitude, abundance, and certainty, life begins to flow harmoniously and satisfyingly. Here's a final exercise to consolidate this principle in your life. Dedicate 5 minutes every morning to listening to your inner conversation. What are you telling yourself as you start the day? Are you anticipating problems, or are you expecting opportunities? Adjust your inner dialogue to align with the state you want to live. Before going to sleep, review your day. Was your inner conversation coherent with your goals? If it wasn't, don't punish yourself. Simply take note and set a clear intention for the next day. Practice anticipatory gratitude. Give thanks for the things you desire as if you already have them. This not only aligns your inner conversation with the desired state, but also generates the right emotional tone for rapid manifestation. Remember, this process isn't a one-day effort, it's a lifestyle. Every moment is an opportunity to adjust your inner conversation and create the reality you desire. You don't need to wait for the world to change. You are the change the world is waiting for. And now, knowing this secret, I invite you to put it into practice in the laboratory of your own life. Don't just understand it intellectually, live it. Because as it is written, according to your faith, it will be done to you. And your faith is nothing more than your constant inner conversation. This is the law, and this is the promise. But that's reversing the order. The world doesn't give first, you do. You give a state, you give an image, you give a certainty, and then the world responds. You don't need to know how the money will come. You don't need to know the perfect plan or have all the pieces in order. Your task isn't to control the form. Your task is to sustain the essence. Sustain the consciousness that you're already the one living in your house. Not in a distant future, not when the numbers add up, not when someone approves you, but now in your inner feeling, in your way of being. The universe can use you as a channel or use others. It can make everything easy, fast, unexpected, but only if you first allow it vibrationally. Only if you first release the belief that you need something more to feel complete. Because no one receives from scarcity. You receive from identity, from the I am. You're not poor trying to stop being poor. Your limitless consciousness remembering its creative nature. And that consciousness, when it assumes a state of abundance, ownership, and certainty, doesn't need to count every coin. It knows the resource will always arrive to support the one who has already moved in consciousness. Money isn't the driver, the state is. Change your state and the money changes. Change your state and contacts arrive. Change your state and opportunities appear. Not because you're luckier now, but because you've stopped acting like someone without power. Because you've moved to the center of creation. Stop looking at your bank account as if it were the thermometer of your possibility. That account reflects an old state, not your present one. And if your state changes, your environment will too. The bank, the numbers, the contracts. All of that adapts because the universe responds to the one who already sees themselves as complete. Pause, breathe. Ask yourself honestly, am I sustaining the state of someone who already has their house? Or am I waiting for something external to give me permission to assume it? The answer will show you where you're vibrating. And if you're not yet in the desired state, don't blame yourself. Just move. Return to it. Reassume, reaffirm, live it. Your house doesn't depend on money, it depends on you. On what you sustain in the silence of your inner story, in the narrative you repeat when no one hears you, in the identity you assume in the most intimate space of your being. Because when that changes, everything else transforms. The external world is a trap for the one who has forgotten who they are. Every day, people walk streets, browse listings, visit properties, analyze prices, calculate possibilities, searching for that ideal house. The perfect house that, when found, will supposedly give them peace, fulfillment, identity. But this is one of the most common and profound errors, searching for the house out there without first building it within. The home you desire isn't out there. It's not hidden in an ad, a loan, or a signature. It's inside you. And until you build it in your imagination, until you feel it as yours in silence, it won't appear in the physical world. Because the physical world isn't the source. It's the reflection. It's not the creator. It's the echo of your consciousness. Searching for the ideal house without first inhabiting it in consciousness is like looking in a mirror expecting to see a face you've never shown. It's projecting a lack and expecting the reflection to return fulfillment. But that never happens. Not because it's impossible, but because you're not creating from the cause. You're chasing the effect. The house you desire exists, yes, but you won't find it like someone exploring an unknown map. You'll recognize it when you recognize yourself as its inhabitant. Because the universe doesn't give you what you ask for with anxiety. It gives you what you already are in vibration. The key isn't to search more intensely. The key is to stop. Close yourself to the world for a moment and open to the inner world where everything is already complete. When you build the house in your imagination, when you walk through it in your mind with love, when you see yourself inside it with naturalness, without anxiety, without urgency, then the world begins to move. The pieces align, coincidences appear, doors open, not because you force the path, but because you've already set the direction in the master blueprint of consciousness. Searching in the external world is acting like someone who doesn't yet have. It's declaring that something is outside you. And that declaration, repeated and emotionalized, becomes law for your experience. But when you stop searching and start recognizing, everything changes. You no longer need to scour every corner of the world. The world starts moving toward you. The error isn't desiring a physical house. The error is believing it's separate from you, that it exists far away, that you must earn it, that you need luck, that someone else must give it to you. But you don't need external authorization to possess what you've already assumed as your own, because you are the center of your creation. You are the dreamer, and the dreamer doesn't search for their dream. They live it, they experience it. Stop looking at listings for a moment. Silence the logic, quiet the noise, close your eyes and return home within you. Visualize, feel, impress it, not as a distant possibility, but as a memory. Live there now. Breathe there now. Let your body get used to the feeling of having, because the one who feels they already have inevitably receives. This isn't escapism, it's spiritual precision. The external world can't give you something you haven't accepted within. No matter how perfect a house seems out there, if you don't recognize it in your consciousness, it will pass you by. Not because it wasn't available, but because you weren't vibrating as its owner. The ideal house isn't found, it's attracted. And it's attracted not with frenzied action, but with inner identity. The world presents options based on the state you inhabit. So instead of endlessly searching, stop, inhabit, assume. Because when you become the owner in consciousness, the house cannot help but appear. You're not here to search for your home. You're here to remember that you already have it. And from that remembrance, manifest it. There's a moment in the day when the external world begins to fade. The conscious mind quiets, and the body gently surrenders to rest. It's in that in-between point, just before sleep, where access to the subconscious is completely open. That state, known as SATS, the state akin to sleep, is the most fertile ground for planting the reality you wish to experience. If used correctly, it can become the direct bridge to your first house. SATS isn't a technique. It's a space of consciousness, a threshold, a silent window where the images you hold meet no logical resistance. In that state, what you imagine is imprinted without filter, without judgment, without interruptions. And what's imprinted there, if sustained, becomes form. Most people go to bed with minds full of doubts, worries, tasks, and lacks. And without realizing it, they plant night after night the continuation of that same reality. But you can choose differently. You can use that sacred moment to build, to inhabit your house before you have it physically, to move with absolute freedom inside the home your consciousness has already created. SATS applied to manifesting your own home is one of the most powerful tools you can use. You don't need complex techniques, just a simple, short, repeatable scene loaded with emotional truth. It could be something as simple as lying in your bed and feeling you're lying in the bed of your new house, feeling the sheets, the weight of your body, the atmosphere of the space, the scent of your furniture. Or maybe visualizing yourself locking the door with your keys or sharing a meal in your dining room. The scene doesn't need to be long or precise in details. The essential thing is that it implies, without a doubt, that you already live there. Not that you desire it, not that you're waiting for it, but that it's already happened, that it's already yours, that you already inhabit it, that you're already part of it. The key is to feel, not to watch as a spectator, but to be the protagonist. Be inside the body, look through your own eyes, hear the sounds as if they were real. Repeat the scene as many times as needed until your body begins to relax and sleep overtakes you. Because right at that moment, when your body falls asleep holding that scene, is when the seed is planted most strongly. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. It only records what you feel with conviction. And if night after night you fall asleep living in your dream house, it will inevitably begin to manifest. Not because you push it, not because you deserve it, but because you've accepted it as true. And what's true in your consciousness must appear in your world. It doesn't matter if you still live with your parents, if you're renting, if you see no logical possibilities. SATS doesn't respond to logic. It responds to what's assumed, to what's felt, to what's lived in that state between sleep and wakefulness. That's your control panel. There you decide your destiny. And if you choose again and again to feel at home, the house will have to appear. Make it a habit, an intimate ritual, not as a forced task, but as a communion with your future self. Every night as you lie down, let yourself go to that space with gentleness, with gratitude, with surrender. Return to that same scene, make it yours, and then let it go. Not with anxiety, but with faith. Because the house you've seen in your mind as you fall asleep is more real than any wall you can't yet touch. And if you sustain it with love, one day you'll open your eyes and be living exactly where you've already been so many times in consciousness. We live in a universe that doesn't judge, doesn't interpret, doesn't evaluate whether what you desire is fair, logical, or necessary. The universe simply reflects. It's a perfect mirror, not of your fleeting thoughts, but of your state of being. What you are internally, what you feel as true, what you assume as real, what you sustain as identity. That's what the world projects back to you. And that world without fail reflects the one who already has, not the one who waits. This is a silent but powerful truth. No one receives while waiting, because the one who waits, in their deepest state, is acknowledging that they don't yet have. They're vibrating in lack. Even if they desire fervently, they're affirming with every thought, with every emotion, that fulfillment is far away, that the outcome is external, that the manifestation is in the future. But the future doesn't come to the one who waits. It comes to the one who already lives it. No matter how sincere your desire for your own house, no matter how intensely you search for it, long for it, or need it, if in your consciousness you keep acting like someone waiting, the universe will keep reflecting more waiting. Not out of cruelty, but out of fidelity, because life cannot deliver something you haven't affirmed as your own. The external reflection is nothing but the confirmation of your internal reflection. If you feel homeless, if you see yourself as someone who will have someday, if you imagine your house as a destination to reach, then you're vibrating outside the end. You're observing from a distance. But the one who already has doesn't observe. They live. They don't desire. They express. They don't wait. They give thanks. This principle might seem unfair to the one who hasn't yet remembered their power, but for the one who has awakened, it's liberating, because it means everything can change now. Not when something external moves, not when an offer, a loan, or a contact appears. It changes now, in this moment, when you choose to stop waiting and start inhabiting. When you say with total conviction, "This is already mine," you don't need external proof to start feeling like an owner. On the contrary, the proof will come when you first feel as true what you desire. That's the reversal of order. It's walking in faith, not based on what you see, but based on what you've decided to be. Because the universe doesn't respond to your physical eyes. It responds to your inner certainty. And what does the one who already has do? They move differently, think differently, walk with a security that doesn't come from ego, but from remembrance. They remember who they are. They remember they're not waiting for anything, that they don't need to negotiate with life, that they only need to sustain their state with love, with fidelity, with presence. Try this exercise. If you knew your house was already yours, that it's inevitably on its way, that nothing can stop it from arriving, how would you feel? How would you act today? What would you let go of? What would you give thanks for? That state, that feeling, that small shift in your vibration is the bridge, not to the house, but to the version of you that already lives in it. And when that version becomes your new center, the world confirms it. The reflection doesn't appear before the face. Your experience doesn't change before your consciousness. If you want to see something new in the mirror of reality, don't keep waiting. Change yourself. Assume, feel, reaffirm, and let the world do its part, as it always has. Reflect you with total accuracy. Because life doesn't respond to the one who begs. It responds to the one who already knows they're the owner. True gratitude doesn't arise when something arrives. It arises when you already feel it as received, even before it manifests in the physical world. It's not a reaction to a visible gift. It's a confirmation that you already know it's done. Giving thanks before receiving isn't an act of goodwill. It's an act of conscious creation. It's the unequivocal signal that you've already assumed the desired state. And the universe, in the face of that state, can only say, Amen. The one who gives thanks before seeing shows they don't need to see to believe. Their faith is enough. Their consciousness already possesses it. And that's why they give thanks. Not as a ritual, not as an attempt to manipulate, but as someone who simply recognizes that what has been decreed in silence has already been fulfilled. When you desire your first house, it's common to think you must work, struggle, or wait until everything falls into place to finally give thanks. But that sequence is incorrect, because in the invisible plane, the cause comes first, and gratitude is a cause, not an effect. Giving thanks is declaring without words, I already have it. I'm already living it. I already am it. This is a silent vibration. It's not announced, not shouted, doesn't need witnesses. It's an intimate, stable, firm sensation. No matter what your physical eyes say, deep down you know. You feel the gratitude of someone who has already been blessed, who has already opened the door to their home, who already lives where they once only dreamed. When you give thanks from this level of consciousness, you're aligning with the fulfilled end. You're tuning into the version of you that already has their house, their space, their stability. You don't need to understand how it will arrive. You don't need to know when. The only important thing is that it has already been received internally. And if it's true within, it will inevitably be reflected outside. The external world cannot resist a sustained vibration, and there's no vibration more powerful, pure, or more magnetic than deep gratitude. Because it's not a vibration of desire, need, or anxiety. It's the vibration of being, of having, of recognizing. Every night as you close your eyes, don't say, I want a house. Say, thank you for my home. Feel it. Give thanks for every corner, every detail, every emotion it brings you. Walk through it in your imagination and give thanks as someone who is already there. Don't repeat empty phrases. Feel the gratitude rise from your deepest core. And stay there, in that state, even if nothing has changed externally yet, because that state will change everything. The one who gives thanks before receiving is creating. They're imprinting the clearest signal possible in the invisible field. I've already chosen. I've already assumed. I've already received. And the universe, which doesn't respond to doubt or waiting, but to conviction, reorganizes the pieces, the paths, the opportunities, the resources, until that house reaches your hands. But when it arrives, it won't seem like a miracle, because you had already felt it. You had already lived there 1,000 times in your heart. You had already said thank you before holding the keys. And that's what makes this manifestation so intimate, so natural, so yours. It wasn't a surprise. It was fulfillment. Make gratitude a habit, not as a tool, but as a way of being. Give thanks for your house, even if you don't see it yet. Give thanks as someone who already lives in it. Give thanks without asking, without bargaining, without negotiating. Just give thanks. Because in that gesture, you're declaring that the process is complete. And when the process is complete within, the world can do nothing but confirm it. The past, though it no longer exists in linear time, remains alive in your consciousness if you keep repeating it emotionally. Memories aren't neutral. They're molds that, if not transformed, condition your present and project your future. If your story with housing is marked by scarcity, uncertainty, dependence, or instability, that energy will keep reproducing more of the same until you decide to rewrite it. Here enters one of Neville Goddard's most liberating principles: creative revision, not as a denial of the past, but as its redemption. Revision doesn't change what happened. It changes your vibration toward it. And by changing that vibration, you change the state you keep projecting without realizing it. You change the foundation. You change the script from its root. You're not condemned by your history. It doesn't matter if you've lived years of forced moves, unpaid rents, broken homes, or the constant feeling of not having a place of your own. None of that has power over your future reality unless you keep reaffirming it with your thoughts, emotions, words, and identity. Revision invites you to return to those painful moments, not to relive them, but to heal them, to see them with new eyes, to give them a new form. You're not lying to yourself. You're freeing yourself. Because the past doesn't exist as an event, only as an impression, and every impression can be transformed by the power of your imagination. Take a memory, one that still weighs on you. Maybe that time you had to leave a place against your will. Maybe that shared room, that debt, that unfulfilled promise. Enter that memory, not as a victim, but as a creator. Observe it, and now change it. Change the scene. Change yourself within it. If before you felt shame, now feel peace. If before there was loss, now there's resolution. If before you left in pain, now you leave with gratitude. Do it again and again, not to erase the past, but to release its weight, to choose a new meaning, to stop letting it live tied to an emotion that no longer represents you. Because the one who still lives the past as real is preventing the new from manifesting. You can't build a new house on the foundation of an unresolved story. Revision is the supreme act of authorship. It makes you the editor of your story. And by rewriting the old chapters with love, you're freeing inner space for the new to flourish without resistance. Remember, the subconscious doesn't distinguish between what was and what is. It only responds to the sustained image. And if that image has been transformed by your consciousness, the external reflection will change too. Revise your language too. How many times have you said, "I've never had a home," or "It's so hard to own a house," or "The system won't let me move forward"? All those phrases are reactivations of an old identity, and every time you say them, you strengthen them. But you're not that story. You're the one who can rewrite it. Start today. Every night before sleep, recall a scene and re-imprint it. You don't need to change every detail. Just feel it differently. Make it yours again, not from pain, but from power. And you'll see how slowly, effortlessly, the past softens and the present begins to open new doors. Because when you no longer carry yesterday as a burden, you walk lighter. And the universe, which always responds to your state, begins to show you a new version of yourself. A version that doesn't need to justify itself. A version that doesn't seek to escape. A version that's finally ready to receive. Revision isn't denial, it's transformation. It's the art of looking at your story with new eyes and declaring, "I am more than this." And that declaration changes everything. The house you desire isn't just a collection of walls, roofs, and doors. It's not just a physical space to store your belongings and rest at night. In reality, that house is a symbol, a representation of something much deeper: your identity, your consciousness, your inner sense of belonging and stability. The true home you're searching for is yourself. Everything in this life is a symbol. Everything external is a projected image from an inner idea sustained with enough strength. And the house is one of the most powerful manifestations of how you see yourself. It's not just a property, it's a mirror of your state of consciousness, of your sense of security, of your relationship with the world and with yourself. When someone doesn't feel worthy, their world reflects transience, instability, uprootedness. But when someone recognizes their value, their integrity, their inner wholeness, the world responds with solid structures, firm foundations, a home that represents them, not because they've done more than others, not because they've worked harder, but because they already recognize themselves as someone worthy of sustaining that symbol in their experience. Your house doesn't give you identity. Your identity shapes the house that arrives. That's why you shouldn't first search for the ideal property, but first remember who you are. When you affirm in silence, "I am home," the universe begins to organize itself to reflect that in the form of a physical place, inner peace, personal territory. Because the home isn't found, it's expressed. There are those who have spent their whole lives moving, searching for a place to settle, without understanding that what they're really searching for is stability within themselves. It's not about a postal address, it's about consciousness. Until you feel at home with yourself, no matter where you go, you'll keep feeling displaced. That's why before having your house, you must become the house yourself. Be a refuge for yourself. Be a sacred place. Be a space of belonging. Not from pride, but from presence. When you inhabit yourself with love, with security, with certainty, the physical world receives that message and responds with a house that's not just an object, but a living reflection of what you already are. This is why many people get houses but don't feel at home, because their inner state hasn't transformed, because they still live as visitors in their own consciousness. But you who are remembering know that true change doesn't begin with a key in hand. It begins with a silent affirmation. I am home. I am stability. I am permanence. Make this affirmation a habit, not repeating it as an empty formula, but feeling it in the core of your being. Let every breath be a confirmation that you're already at home within yourself. Let every step you take be as someone who already walks in their space, their land, their temple. Because your body is a temple, your mind is a territory, your consciousness is a structure. And from that state, the physical house arrives, not as a miracle, not as chance, but as a natural consequence of a symbol becoming form. Because form always follows consciousness, and the house is nothing but the external echo of how you've chosen to live within. So when you think of your first house, remember, it's not something you're going to obtain. It's something you're going to reflect. It's not something the world will give you. It's something you already are, and the world will have no choice but to show it to you. Your identity is the home, and the home is the starting point of all manifestation. You're surrounded by human beings, people with their own paths, decisions, intentions. But what few understand is that the way those people behave toward you isn't random, independent, or fixed. Every one of them, from a friend to a stranger, from a lender to a real estate agent, responds without knowing it to your inner state. No one acts toward you outside the movie you're projecting from your consciousness. This includes contacts, opportunities, unexpected help, agreements. They don't arrive by chance. They don't appear because you chased them or because it was simply the right time. They arrive because you had already assumed a state in which you were already someone who has a house, someone who receives solutions, someone who is supported by life. And that state emits an invisible signal, a frequency that organizes all the characters in the script. When you assume a new state, you don't need to convince anyone. The world begins to reconfigure itself on its own. People who seemed indifferent before suddenly offer help. Contacts you'd forgotten reappear with the exact key. Situations that seem closed open for no apparent reason. Why does this happen? Because you're no longer the same. Your state has changed, and therefore your reality must obey. This isn't manipulation, it's law. All the beings that enter your field reflect an aspect of your vibration. They're like actors playing roles written in the secret script of your consciousness. If you believe no one supports you, you'll attract indifference. If you believe everything is blocked, the world will act as a barrier. But if you assume life is in your favor, that everything is aligned, that the right people are coming, then you'll see it reflected with precision. And what's the role of your desire for a house in all this? Simple. You don't need to plan who will help you, how the resources will appear. You only need to assume it's already a fact, that everything is being orchestrated in your favor, that all the necessary characters are already on their way. That's how manifestation works. You place yourself in the final state, and life assembles the rest. When you stop asking how it will happen, who will call, which contact will be useful, and simply assume everything is unfolding because you've already received it in consciousness, you enter a state of rest. And from that rest, doors open without effort, because the energy of certainty moves the pieces without you needing to push them. Even if someone says no, don't take it as a sign of failure. Take it as redirection. If you're in the correct state, everything that happens, even what seems like a block, is working toward fulfillment. Because life doesn't act against the one who has already decided, it acts as an extension of their conviction. Start seeing every face as a moving piece within your simulation, not from separation, but from unity. If you change your center, they'll change their role. Not because you control them, but because your world responds to the one who has chosen to be. You're not waiting for someone to come rescue you. You're the one holding the lighthouse. You're the one emitting the signal. You're the one, with your assumption, summoning the actors of the miracle. You don't need to know their names. You only need to know they're already on their way. Remember, life moves by vibration, and if you vibrate from the fulfilled end, all the necessary means will appear. Contacts, calls, signatures, conversations, opportunities, not because you chase them, but because you've decided they're part of the script. And when you decide from the heart, the entire universe conspires in your favor. The law is infallible. It doesn't depend on time, weather, your environment, or your past. It doesn't vary by your effort or sway with your doubts. The law simply is. And that law states clearly, every state of consciousness sustained with persistence must manifest in the physical plane. It cannot fail. There's no exception. This is the law that governs all creation. What you assume internally as true becomes your experience. Not because you fight, not because you deserve it, not because you're good enough, but because that's what you are in that level of consciousness. And the world, always obedient, simply reflects your most dominant state. You can't assume for a moment that you already have your house and then spend the rest of the day doubting, worrying, feeling displaced. You can't affirm at night that you already live there and spend the day reaffirming the opposite with your words, emotions, and gestures. Because it's not what you do sporadically that creates, it's what you sustain. And this is the key, the sustainability of the state, not as something rigid, not as a forced obligation, but as a constant choice, a returning, a reaffirming with love, a staying firm even if the world hasn't confirmed it yet. Because it will confirm it, it always does. It only needs you not to contradict it. The law doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you believe you already are. If you sustain the state of I am an owner, then the universe aligns with that affirmation. People, resources, decisions, everything begins to reconfigure to give you the external experience you've assumed internally. And you don't need effort, just persistence. Manifestation isn't about momentary emotional intensity. It's about vibrational stability, about staying there, not out of need, but out of conviction. Because you no longer define yourself by what you see, you define yourself by what you've remembered as true. At first, it might seem like nothing is happening, that everything stays the same, but that's just the last resistance of the old reflection, the old projection trying to hold on. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that, because something hasn't moved externally yet, the law isn't working. The law always works. What happens is that sometimes you let go of the state too soon. Your task isn't to chase the house, manipulate the world, or guess how it will happen. Your task is to remain. Remain in the state you've chosen. Feel it there. Live from there. Decide from there. Think, act, breathe as someone who is already at home. And if you can do that, not for an hour, not for a day, but as a new way of being, then manifestation cannot be avoided. Ask yourself honestly, what state am I sustaining? Not in moments of meditation, but in my daily life. Am I vibrating as someone who already has their home, or as someone still waiting? Am I walking with certainty or with anxiety? Am I giving thanks for what already is, or waiting to see if it will come? And if you notice you've slipped from the state, don't punish yourself. Just return. Return to the remembrance. Return to the feeling. Return to the you that already lives there. Because every time you return with faith, with gentleness, with love, you're strengthening the new state. And that state, once it becomes dominant, becomes reality. That's how it's always been. That's how it will always be. Because the law doesn't fail. And now that you know it, the only question is, what state are you choosing to sustain? Many desire their own house, but keep imagining it as something out there. Something to be obtained when it's possible, when it happens, when everything aligns. Meanwhile, they live mentally as tenants in waiting, subject to conditions, tied to permissions. This is an energetic position, not a legal one. And as long as you inhabit that state, even if the world shows you options, you'll keep feeling you can't truly possess, because it's not the signing of a contract that makes you an owner. It's an inner shift. It's a silent movement, almost imperceptible, from a state of dependence to one of sovereignty. Being a spiritual owner isn't having the house on paper. It's knowing without doubt that it's already yours in consciousness. And from there, everything organizes so the invisible becomes visible. The mental tenant asks, doubts, calculates, consults, waits for approval, not because they're weak, but because they haven't yet remembered their creative power. They see the world as a filter, not a reflection. They feel they need to qualify when, in reality, they only need to assume. But when that same being awakens, something changes profoundly. They no longer move as someone asking for permission, but as someone affirming, this belongs to me because I've assumed it. That's the change of role, not a forced step, but an act of consciousness. The moment you stop thinking of yourself as a visitor in the world and start seeing yourself as the center that organizes your own reality, you no longer define yourself by rent, rejections, or the doubts of your environment. You define yourself by your faith, by what you are deep down. The spiritual owner doesn't seek to control, doesn't need to impose. They simply know. They walk through their world with a different energy because they've taken possession of the state. And that inner possession is what gives rise to the outer manifestation, because you cannot live long in a state that doesn't express itself. All sustained consciousness demands to be dramatized. It's not about leaping from one extreme to another with empty affirmations. The change must be felt. It must become natural. So observe yourself honestly. Are you still waiting for something to change to feel capable? Or can you already see yourself walking through your house as an absolute owner, in peace, in gratitude, without any doubt? This transition from mental tenant to spiritual owner is one of the most powerful keys to manifesting your home. Because the tenant always believes the external has authority. The owner knows the authority is in them, in their posture, their vibration, their silent conviction. No one can give you that place. You must take it yourself. Not when everything is resolved, but now. Because the change doesn't happen when you see the house. It happens when you stop searching for it. When, without needing proof, you already live in it from your soul. And that inner living, sustained with love and certainty, is what opens the physical doors. Do it today. Close your eyes and stop being the one who waits. Become the one who already has. You don't need to imagine complex scenes. Just enter the feeling that everything is resolved, that you already have your space, that nothing and no one can take away what you've assumed is yours. What's invisible, remember? No one can inhabit that state for you. Only you can move from the mind that asks to the consciousness that possesses. And once you make that movement, the universe can do nothing but obey, because the house was already waiting for you. The constant search is, in essence, an affirmation that what you desire is still far away. It's a silent declaration that you need to keep pursuing, achieving, struggling. But what you search for from lack never manifests as you desire, because the one who searches endlessly without realizing it keeps alive the idea that they don't yet have. In contrast, when you stop searching and start being, the world transforms, not because you've done something new, but because you've become something new. The house doesn't arrive when you find it. It arrives when you've changed your state, when you stop seeing it as a destination and start living it as an identity, when you become the version of yourself that already lives there. This isn't a physical process, it's internal. You're not chasing the perfect opportunity. You're not waiting for someone's yes. You're embodying the desired end as your present state. Because in the plane of consciousness, there's no time, only levels. And when you place yourself at the level of the one who already possesses, the material world responds with precision. Stopping the search doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding. It means seeing beyond the mirage of external action. It means letting go of anxiety, the need to control, the impulse to force. It means resting in your being, in the certainty that it's already done. Because when you become what you desire, the search becomes unnecessary. You're no longer walking toward your house. You're walking from it. That's the difference between the seeker and the creator. The seeker waits to find. The creator has already decided to be. The seeker examines the world. The creator transforms their inner world and lets the external reflect it. Not out of passivity, but out of real power. Because power isn't in desperate effort. It's in the assumed consciousness. And this is something only you can do. No one can assume your state for you. No one can live your home in consciousness for you. You can receive advice, inspiration, methods, but only you can make that silent leap where you stop, breathe, and say, enough searching, I am. And in that moment, even if nothing external has changed yet, you've changed everything. When you assume that state, your decisions begin to shift. You no longer go from offer to offer, waiting for signs. You no longer cling to conditions. You start moving with serene calm. There's no more desperation because there's no more emptiness. There's no more urgency because you're already complete. And the universe responds to that vibration with scenarios that confirm your certainty. The house appears when you're no longer trying to obtain it. It appears when you're simply being the one who has it, not as someone playing a role, but as someone who has remembered their truth, as someone who no longer asks because they've already received, as someone who no longer waits because they've already arrived. This is the great turning point. The moment you move from waiting to embodiment, from searching to existence, from longing to possession. You don't need to move faster. Just move from the right place, from your inner home, from that space in your consciousness where you already live in peace, already inhabit your space, already are the owner of your reflection. And when that state becomes natural, the physical house has no choice. It must manifest. Because you're no longer trying to bring it from outside, you're allowing it to arrive as the inevitable shadow of what you already are. So simple, so powerful. Stop searching, start being, and everything else will find you. When the desire is clear, when the state is assumed, when you no longer search but simply are, it happens. The inevitable occurs. The opportunity appears. The moment arrives. The how you so wanted to know unfolds as if it had been silently waiting for you to take your place in the script. But the curious thing is, it almost never arrives the way you imagined. Because the miracle isn't fabricated, it's allowed. The logical mind always wants to control the details. It wants to know which person will make it possible, which call will trigger the process, which bank will say yes, which exact step must follow. But that insistence on knowing the mechanism is, in reality, an act of doubt. Because the one who has already received in consciousness doesn't ask how. They trust that the how will reveal itself. And it does. The opportunity isn't something you force, it's something you summon. Not from effort, but from vibration. You don't need to manipulate life to align with you. You only need to become someone with whom life is already aligned. And when that happens, the details arrive like a symphony orchestrated from invisible planes. Maybe it's an unexpected conversation. Maybe someone mentions a property that was never listed. Maybe a condition that seemed impossible to resolve simply disappears. And when this happens, you don't marvel because you already knew. You had already seen it within. You didn't know exactly how it would unfold, but you knew it had to happen because your state already contained it. This is what we call a miracle. But in reality, there's no miracle. There's correspondence. Consciousness brings everything needed to express itself in form. And if you've sustained with fidelity the state of someone who already has their house, the details of the miracle are nothing but the logical response of the universe to your vibrational fidelity. But you must be attentive, not to the world, but to yourself. Because many times the how arrives in such simple, natural ways that you might dismiss it for seeming ordinary. You think a miracle must come with fireworks, but in reality, it often arrives like a breeze, like a message, an idea you didn't have yesterday, an opportunity so clear that the only requirement is that you're ready to say yes. And that yes is the most important thing. Because the world can offer you 1,000 paths, but if you keep vibrating in the old identity, if you still doubt, still delay, still don't feel worthy, you'll let the miracle pass by without recognizing it. The door opens, but you don't see it because you expected another form. That's why preparation isn't external. It's within you. You don't make the miracle happen. You recognize it when it arrives. And you only recognize it if you're already in the state that calls it. This is the secret. You don't create the opportunity. You become the person for whom the opportunity is natural. And when you do, everything organizes itself. The details of the miracle aren't your responsibility. Your only role is to sustain the state of someone who has already received, who is already at home, who already lives from the end. Because the end is the only point from which everything flows. And when you do this, the world fulfills its part. And so, one ordinary day, without warning, without fanfare, it happens. The house that seemed impossible becomes available. The money you didn't know how to get appears. The contract you didn't know how to sign gets signed on its own. And you, in peace and gratitude, simply take one more step, not from amazement, but from remembrance. Because it was all already written. All that was needed was for you to take your place. When the miracle finally happens, the conditioned mind steps in. It wants to explain it, justify it, rationalize how it was possible, and if it can't understand it, it minimizes it, hides it, or even denies it. But you're not here to explain miracles. You're here to live them, to embody them, to be the living example of a higher law that doesn't need to be defended. Faith doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for validation. It doesn't consult the world to see if it can manifest. Faith simply knows, and by knowing, it acts, and by acting, it creates. And when it creates, it does so from naturalness, not from the need to be understood. When your house appears, when you sign the contract, when you step into that space you inhabited so many times in consciousness, don't rush to explain how it happened. Don't try to fit it into a logic that didn't bring it, because it wasn't logic that generated it. It was your state. It was your certainty. It was your silent fidelity to the inner vision. The world will ask for reasons. Some will say you got lucky. Others will say it was the right time. Others will think someone helped you, and maybe even you by reflex will try to find a way to narrate it without seeming naive. But deep down, you know none of that was the cause, that everything visible was just the consequence of a deep vibrational decision. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't need to convert others. Your life is already the testimony. Your serenity is the teaching. Your result is the living proof that consciousness creates, that you create, that the law responds without fail to the image sustained with truth. This is a point of spiritual maturity, letting go of explaining what is natural to you. Does the sun explain why it shines? Does the sea apologize for its vastness? So too you, when you manifest your house, simply give thanks for it, receive it, live it. And if someone asks, you can respond with honesty. I assumed it as true before I saw it. I lived it in my heart, and life responded. Those who are ready to understand will, and those who aren't have their own process. It's not your job to speed up their path. You were called to embody your truth, not to defend it, to manifest, not to justify. And that's what makes you a lighthouse. Not for what you explain, but for what you radiate. Faith doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need spectacle. It's simple, silent, elegant, and yet more powerful than any argument. True faith is recognized by its fruits, not its speeches. And when you live from that place, you no longer need words, just presence. Don't try to fit your manifestation into someone else's logic. Don't try to make others understand what you've lived in silence. They'll see your life, and something in them will awaken. Maybe not today, maybe not in front of you, but you'll have planted a seed, the possibility that they too can create from within. And that's the greatest teaching, not talking about the law, but living it, not quoting it, but demonstrating it, not defending it, but embodying it. When the house arrives, because it will, remember this moment. Remember that you don't need to explain it. You don't need to give reasons. You only need to keep walking in gratitude. Because gratitude doesn't explain, it confirms. And you who already knew are simply living it. Because faith doesn't argue. Faith doesn't doubt. Faith manifests. Living from the end isn't a metaphor. It's a spiritual stance, a vibrational attitude, a state of being that transforms everything. It means feeling that you're already there, that you've already achieved it, that you're already living the desired result, and not in an imaginary or symbolic way, but so real within you that the external becomes simply the inevitable step toward that vision. The one who lives from the end isn't looking forward, waiting for something to arrive. The one who lives from the end walks as someone who has already received, breathes as someone who already belongs, moves as someone who doesn't need proof. And that inner attitude, when sustained, breaks all barriers of time, logic, and apparent conditions. Imagine yourself now walking on the roof of your own house, not as an abstract visualization, but as an embodied experience. Feel the air, hear the sounds of the neighborhood, observe the sky from there, sense the feeling of accomplishment, but also the peace of someone who no longer has to prove anything. Because living from the end isn't a momentary euphoria, it's a silent certainty. This is the secret. Every end lived as present becomes a cause. You're not reacting to what happens, you're sustaining what you've decided is real for you. The end you live internally, if constant, will become an external beginning. It's law, it's inevitable, because consciousness cannot sustain a state without producing its reflection. But many get distracted along the way. They fall in love with the process, the method, the effort, and forget the essential thing. Living from the end, not as a desire, not as an intention, but as a certainty, as something that already was, that already is. Even if your physical eyes don't see it yet, your inner senses are already experiencing it. And that's the point of power. When your inner experience becomes more real than any external appearance, when you no longer need the world to tell you it's true because you know it, feel it, live it, you're no longer waiting. You're walking from the result, from the conclusion, from the memory of what's already fulfilled. This state isn't sustained with effort, but with love, with fidelity, with gentleness. And when you do this, everything in your world begins to obey that new direction. What seems slow speeds up. What seemed impossible adjusts, not because you forced the process, but because you were already living in the right place in the end. This is the moment to let go of doubts, to stop asking questions, to stop looking at the clock, because everything has already been fulfilled. And you're not walking toward the house. You're walking from it. You're remembering what was already assumed. You're breathing the atmosphere of someone who has already crossed the threshold. Do it now. Close your eyes and feel the weight of the keys in your hand. Feel your steps on your floor. Observe the light filtering through the window. Feel your body relaxed, your soul at peace, because you're already there. Not as a possibility, but as an inner reality. And what's internal, sustained with truth, always becomes external. You no longer walk as someone who wants to have. You walk as someone who already has. You no longer visualize as someone who desires. You feel as someone who remembers. You no longer speak as someone who waits. You live as someone who confirms. And so, step by step, day by day, you become the end you chose. And the world, obedient and silent, takes care of the rest. At the end of the journey, you understand that the house wasn't the destination, that the search wasn't for bricks, roofs, or deeds, that the entire path, every thought, every sustained image, every silence of faith wasn't about having a place to live, but about discovering who you really are. Because the home isn't a place, it's a reflection, a physical projection of an inner state of wholeness, stability, completeness. You didn't come into this life to chase properties. You came to remember that you already are everything, that you already contain everything. And when that realization becomes stable within you, the external life manifested effortlessly. Your house, the one you desired, the one you imagined, the one you visualized for countless nights, was only the symbol, an echo, a sign, a language your soul used to lead you to a greater truth, that you are the creator, that you are the consciousness that gives form, that you are the dreamer of the dream. And like everything in this universe, the home also obeys the law that says what you assume with constancy, what you feel as true, what you live within as already done, that will appear, not by chance, not as a reward, but as a direct consequence of your fidelity to yourself. Now you understand that you didn't need to beg, wait, or convince. You only needed to assume, to be, to remain, to inhabit yourself first so the world would know how to serve you. Because the house you inhabit today is nothing but the echo of the being you chose to be yesterday. And if tomorrow you desire another reality, you don't need to change the world. You only need to change the being again. This is what makes the realized being. They know reality isn't chased, it's projected. That stability isn't found, it's expressed. That the home isn't a place, it's a state of the soul. And from that state, everything else, abundance, security, belonging, peace, flows naturally. The house won't complete you. It will only confirm what you already know, that you're worthy, that you're in your place, that you've remembered everything. And when you cross the threshold of that physical home for the first time, you might cry, not for having something new, but for recognizing that the door now opening was always within you, that the roof now sheltering you is the reflection of the roof you learned to build in your own consciousness. Don't cling to the form, celebrate the process. Give thanks for every scene, because you haven't just gained a house, you've created from consciousness. You've walked the inner path, you've assumed the end, and now you know forever that there's nothing outside of you. And that certainty, that serene certainty, is the true home. The mind in its purest and most essential state reveals itself as the primordial source of all power in creation. In this inner journey, we are invited to discover an infinite universe that resides in the deepest part of our being, a vast ocean of possibilities that, when explored and understood, becomes the key that unlocks the doors of reality. The premise that the mind is a limitless entity is not just an abstract idea, but an intrinsic truth that sustains all existence. Every thought, every emotion, and every image we hold within has the capacity to shape our world, giving form to what we live and experience. Since time immemorial, philosophers, mystics, and sages have alluded to the idea that the mind is the crucible in which all human experiences are forged. This thought has been the foundation of Neville Goddard's teachings, which emphasize the importance of imagination and faith in creating reality. According to these teachings, the mind is not merely a passive receiver of information, but an active creator, capable of transforming nothingness into something, of turning a desire into a tangible experience. In other words, the mind is the workshop in which existence is forged, and each of us is both the artisan and the raw material of our own life. As we delve into the recognition of this limitless power, it is fundamental to understand that the mind operates beyond the conventional limits imposed by logic and time. The true essence of the infinite mind lies in its ability to transcend the barriers of space and time, allowing us to access levels of consciousness where past, present, and future merge into a single experience. This state of expanded consciousness teaches us that reality is not something fixed and external, but a fluid and dynamic construction that constantly reinvents itself based on our thoughts and emotions. In this context, faith plays a crucial role, not a blind or dogmatic faith, but a deep trust in the inherent power of the mind to create and transform. By mentally assuming the state of what we desire to be or have, we begin to sow the seeds of a new reality. This act of believing without hesitation in the possibility of change is the first step to unlocking the limitless potential that every human carries within. It is in this act of faith, visualization, and feeling the desire fulfilled where the miracle of personal transformation is born. The power of the mind manifests in every aspect of our existence, from small daily decisions to life's greatest milestones. By recognizing that every thought is a creative force, we realize that we are the architects of our destiny. This responsibility, though daunting, is also liberating, as it allows us to understand that no obstacle is insurmountable when thought aligns with feeling and action. Every experience, every achievement, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to reaffirm our ability to create and transform. The notion of the infinite mind also invites us to question and transcend the limitations imposed by society and our own beliefs. Often, the barriers that seem insurmountable are, in reality, mental constructions, echoes of old thoughts and past conditioning. By delving into a deep understanding of our inner nature, we begin to dismantle those walls and open ourselves to a field of limitless possibilities. It is in this process of inner liberation where we discover that true strength lies in the ability to reinvent ourselves and imagine a different future from the present. Likewise, understanding that the mind is infinite leads us to a state of humility and awe before the vastness of the inner universe. Every idea, every feeling, and every vision is part of a cosmic web of energies that interconnect in mysterious and profound ways. This recognition invites us to see life as a dance in which each of us is both dancer and choreographer, responsible for the harmony and rhythm of our own existence. The awareness that we are active participants in creating our reality drives us to act with determination, live with passion, and pursue our dreams with the certainty that the mind is an inexhaustible resource. In summary, as we embark on this journey toward understanding the infinite mind, we find ourselves before a vast panorama where every thought carries weight. Every image is a brick in the construction of our world, and every emotion is a vibration that resonates in the great symphony of existence. The mind, as the limitless source of power, not only allows us to dream, but also to manifest those dreams into tangible reality. This understanding frees us from the chains of doubt and propels us to embrace life with the certainty that within each of us lies a boundless creative potency. Thus, by recognizing and honoring the greatness of our mind, we embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation, where the only frontier is imagination and the commitment to live according to our deepest truths. Every moment becomes an opportunity to rewrite our story, to reinvent our being, to experience life in its purest and most expansive form. The infinite mind is the foundation upon which all that we are and will be is built, and in that knowledge lies the master key to unlocking the limitless potential that defines us as creative and conscious beings. The inner divinity is the recognition that at the core of every being resides a sacred spark, a primordial light that is the source of all manifestation. This concept invites us to look beyond appearances and external limitations to discover within ourselves that divine essence, which is both the origin and the destiny of all that we are and create. By understanding that every thought, every emotion, and every action emanates from this inner spark, we open ourselves to a vision of the world in which reality becomes a masterpiece sculpted by consciousness. Since ancient times, various spiritual and philosophical traditions have affirmed that the human being is nothing less than a reflection of the divine. This belief, which lies at the heart of Neville Goddard's teachings, underscores that divinity is not reserved for an external deity or an abstract concept, but is inherent in every individual. Recognizing the divine spark in ourselves is to assume that we innately possess a creative power that transcends physical and temporal limitations. It is this power that allows our desires to become tangible realities when aligned with intention and faith. As we delve into this recognition, it is essential to let go of the notion of separation between the human and the divine. The true essence of our existence lies in the fusion of the material and the spiritual, in the intersection where mind and soul meet to weave the fabric of our lives. Every experience, Every achievement and every challenge becomes an opportunity to reaffirm this sacred connection. By accepting that we are bearers of a divine spark, we adopt a stance of responsibility and love toward ourselves and the universe, aware that what we manifest externally is a reflection of our inner state. This understanding invites us to live with heightened consciousness, where every thought is considered an act of creation and every emotion a vibration that contributes to the overall design of reality. The inner divinity manifests in the ability to see limitless potential in every situation, recognizing that, in essence, we are co-creators of our destiny. In this process, self-worth and self-love become fundamental tools, as by honoring our divinity, we strengthen the bond with the inexhaustible source of power that resides in our being. The path to the conscious manifestation of the inner divinity is not without challenges. Often, limiting beliefs and societal conditioning have taught us to distrust our own light. However, by embarking on the journey of self-knowledge, it becomes evident that these barriers are merely veils that obscure the clarity of our essence. Through the practice of meditation, visualization, and the deliberate act of feeling the divine presence in every experience, we begin to dissolve those obstacles and reconnect with the true potential that defines us. Moreover, recognizing the divine spark implies a deep commitment to personal transformation. It is not merely a momentary state of consciousness, but a constant dedication to living according to the principles of love, compassion, and conscious creation. Every time we allow ourselves to experience the divinity we are, we align with a force that transcends the ordinary and propels us to achieve levels of fulfillment and happiness that once seemed unattainable. The manifestation of this divinity becomes a process of liberation, where every act of faith and every positive thought reaffirms our connection with the sacred. In this context, the inner divinity stands as the foundation of all manifestation, as it is the driving force that fuels the transformation of thought into reality. By assuming that we are bearers of a divine spark, we understand that the universe responds to our intentions immediately and effectively. Faith in our own divinity acts as a magnet that attracts the circumstances and resources needed to materialize our dreams. Thus, every manifestation in life, whether big or small, becomes irrefutable proof of the limitless capacity that resides within us. Finally, living in tune with the inner divinity challenges us to transcend the duality of good and evil, abundance and lack, to embrace a unified vision where everything is possible. The awareness that we are reflections of the same universal light allows us to see in every encounter, in every experience, an opportunity to grow and expand our being. Thus, the recognition of the divine spark becomes the cornerstone of a fulfilling life, where every step is guided by the certainty that there are no limits to the manifestation of our creative power. In conclusion, by honoring the inner divinity, we transform ourselves into the architects of our own existence, capable of sculpting a reality that reflects the magnificence of our essence. This process of self-discovery and empowerment is the key to freeing ourselves from the bonds of fear and doubt, and to living a life where every moment becomes a celebration of the infinite creativity and love we carry within. Imagination is the primary tool that allows us to shape experience and transform the inner world into a tangible reality. Since time immemorial, great thinkers have held that imagination is the workshop in which all creation is forged, the hidden matrix behind every manifestation in life. It is not merely an exercise in daydreaming or escaping reality, but a conscious and deliberate process that invites us to visualize, feel, and ultimately materialize what we wish to see in our surroundings. When we immerse ourselves in the act of imagining, we enter a boundless universe where every thought acts as a seed with the potential to germinate and grow. It is in this inner space, free from the limitations of time and space, that the mind breaks free from the constraints of the physical world to explore infinite possibilities. By allowing ourselves to imagine without restrictions, we take a crucial step in creating a new reality, as every mental image, every scenario we build in our mind becomes the prelude to what will, in time, manifest in our lives. The conscious practice of imagination requires deep faith in the ability of thought to influence matter. This faith is not blind, but a cultivated trust through the understanding that every idea, every visualization, holds an inherent power of transformation. It is the belief that by focusing our mind on a desired ideal and infusing it with the corresponding emotion, we open the doors to a process of manifestation in which the intangible becomes tangible. Thus, imagination becomes the bridge between the ethereal and the material, between the dream and reality. In this process, it is fundamental to understand that imagination does not operate in isolation. It is intrinsically connected to feeling. The strength of a mental image is amplified when associated with an intense and sincere emotion. Imagining ourselves in possession of what we desire, or feeling the joy of having achieved a goal, activates an internal vibration that aligns with the frequency of success and fulfillment. Every imagined detail, every emotional nuance, acts as a catalyst that transforms mere visualization into a lived experience. Therefore, the practice of imagining is not merely a mental act, but a lived experience that involves all our senses and emotions. The creativity of the mind manifests naturally when we learn to trust our capacity to dream. Often, conditioning and limitations imposed by past experiences or others' opinions can cloud creative potential. However, by training the mind to visualize without judgments or restrictions, we free it from those shackles and give way to a new form of interaction with reality. In this context, imagination stands as the key that opens the door to a realm of limitless possibilities, allowing us to design and sculpt life in the image and likeness of our deepest desires. One of the most effective practices for harnessing the power of imagination is creative visualization. This exercise involves closing the eyes, breathing deeply, and immersing oneself in an internal scenario where the desire has been fulfilled. It is not about a mere mental representation, but about living in the present, the sensation of having already achieved that ideal, experiencing now the emotion of realization. By doing so, the mind not only creates an image, but establishes a vibration that extends beyond the mental plane, influencing circumstances and attracting the conditions necessary for manifestation. It is important to highlight that imagination, as the creator of realities, requires discipline and consistency. It is not enough to imagine sporadically. It is about cultivating a daily practice that allows us to stay in tune with our creative power. Persistence in this exercise strengthens the connection between thought and manifestation, consolidating the belief that we are indeed the architects of our destiny. Every day is a new opportunity to redesign our existence, to imagine more boldly, and to feel intensely the realization of our dreams. Moreover, the power of imagination extends beyond the personal realm, influencing how we relate to our environment and others. A mind that imagines grandly can project that positive energy onto the world, inspiring others to explore their own creative potential. Thus, imagination not only transforms the individual experience, but becomes a collective force that can elevate the consciousness of an entire community. When each being recognizes and uses their capacity to imagine, a synergy is generated that transcends the barriers of the ego and manifests in acts of love, cooperation, and social transformation. In essence, imagination is much more than a mere mental resource. It is the very essence of creation. It is the space where dreams are born, the spark that ignites the flame of manifestation, and the engine that drives personal and collective evolution. By understanding and embracing this power, we become co-creators of our reality, capable of turning even challenges into opportunities for growth. Imagination, in its purest form, invites us to transcend apparent limitations and build a world where dreams become reality through the power of thought, feeling, and faith. Thus, by exploring and cultivating imaginative capacity, we open ourselves to an infinite universe of possibilities, where every mental image is a step toward the transformation of our existence. It is in this act of creating from within that we discover the fundamental truth. Reality is a reflection of our mind, and by reimagining our world, we ultimately reimagine ourselves. Unconditional faith is the unbreakable bridge that connects the realm of imagination with that of manifestation, allowing us to believe in the invisible without needing tangible proof. It is the deep conviction that even though what we desire is not yet visible in the physical plane, It already exists in the vast universe of potential. This faith acts as a seed that, when planted in the fertile ground of the mind, blossoms into reality, transforming every thought into a creative vibration. Like a seed that germinates silently in the darkness, unconditional faith works internally and mysteriously, guiding each step toward the realization of what has not yet materialized. When one embraces absolute faith, it becomes possible to transcend the limitations imposed by sensory perception and ordinary logic. In this state, it is recognized that the visible is only a partial manifestation of truth, while the essence of all creation resides in the invisible plane. Unconditional faith invites the mind to let go of the need for immediate evidence and to trust in the creative process that operates on a subtler level. This trust is not based on mere hopes or vague desires, but on an inner certainty that everything imagined with clarity and felt with intensity is already at the origin of creation. By developing unwavering faith, every thought and every emotion become powerful tools for transformation. The practice of believing in the invisible involves a voluntary surrender to the possibility of the extraordinary, an act of self-love in which one recognizes oneself as worthy of a life full of abundance and fulfillment. In this sense, faith becomes the engine of manifestation, a magnet that attracts the circumstances and opportunities necessary to materialize our dreams. It is in this state of total belief that the barriers of skepticism dissolve, allowing us to see every situation as a sign from the universe that supports our desire. Unconditional faith is not a passive attitude, but an active commitment to the process of creation. It requires discipline and constant practice, such as repeating affirmations, meditating, and visualizing, which help keep the mind focused on what one wishes to achieve. Every visualization exercise performed with the emotion of having already achieved that longing strengthens inner belief and activates the manifestation process. Through these conscious acts, the mind aligns with the frequency of the desire, making the invisible a tangible reality in time. One of the most profound revelations brought by unconditional faith is the understanding that time becomes malleable in the believer's universe. Past, present, and future merge into a fluid continuum in which what has not yet manifested is already operating in the realm of the possible. This holistic view of time allows the future to cease being a distant concept and become a natural extension of the now. By living in this state of already, every moment transforms into an opportunity to reaffirm faith and take firm steps toward the realization of dreams, regardless of external circumstances. Moreover, unconditional faith invites us to see every challenge as a lesson and every obstacle as a stepping stone on the path to fulfillment. Even when external evidence seems to contradict our desires, faith sustains us, reminding us that the universe always responds to the vibration of inner belief. This act of trusting in the invisible is, ultimately, an act of liberation, in which the need for external validation is left behind to embrace the creative power that resides deep within the being. The practice of unwavering faith also strengthens the relationship with oneself, as it forces us to look inward and recognize the intrinsic value we possess. By believing in the invisible, we connect with an essential part of our nature, one that is beyond physical and temporal limitations. It is in that inner space where the true power of manifestation is found, where every desire, no matter how intangible it may seem, has already taken form in the spiritual realm. This connection allows us to experience life with a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. Knowing that the universe's creative force operates constantly and in our favor, in daily practice, unconditional faith translates into small acts of courage and determination. In the decision to move forward despite fears, in the commitment to persist even when results are not yet evident, and in the ability to keep the vision of success in the heart. Every thought directed toward the invisible is a seed of manifestation that, with time and dedication, becomes a tangible reality. Thus, the act of believing without conditions becomes a sacred dance between the visible and the invisible, between what is and what is yet to come. In conclusion, unconditional faith is the very essence of creative power. It is the ability to hold in the soul the certainty that what is imagined and felt already exists in the realm of the possible, even when the senses cannot yet perceive it. This faith frees us from the chains of skepticism and invites us to live in a state of continuous creation, where every moment is an opportunity to materialize our dreams. By believing in the invisible with total conviction, we open the door to a limitless universe of possibilities, transforming life into a constant act of conscious and sublime creation. Assuming the feeling of the fulfilled desire is a practice that transcends mere thought or simple visualization. It is about internally inhabiting the state in which the desired goal has already been achieved. It is diving into an inner experience so deep and real that the body, mind, and spirit are convinced that what is longed for is not a mere future possibility, but a present reality. In this process, the act of feeling becomes the bridge that connects the dream with manifestation, allowing the vibration of the fulfilled desire to spread and materialize in the physical world. When one immerses oneself in the feeling of the fulfilled desire, the duality between what is and what will be is abandoned. Instead of passively waiting for external circumstances to align with our aspirations, the individual places themselves in the state of being of achievement, acting from the conviction that the goal has already been attained. This approach is not based on illusion or naive optimism, but on a profound understanding that reality is, in essence, a manifestation of the inner state of being. By mentally and wholeheartedly assuming the experience of attainment, a chain of events is activated that ultimately collaborates in the materialization of the desire. The key to practicing this feeling lies in discipline and consistency. It is necessary to train the mind to evoke and maintain that state of complete satisfaction, even when external circumstances do not yet reflect the realization. Through techniques such as meditation, visualization, and the repetition of affirmations, the ability to immerse oneself in the sensation of having already achieved what is desired is cultivated. This conscious act becomes a kind of internal rehearsal where every detail, every emotion, and every sensation is recreated with precision, allowing the mind and body to synchronize in a vibration coherent with the desired state. The process of assuming the feeling of the fulfilled desire requires total surrender and unwavering faith. It is essential to detach from dependence on external evidence and cultivate absolute trust in the transformative power of feeling. The internal experience must be so vivid and real that deep down it is perceived as the unquestionable truth of existence. This state of being, in which the mind already lives the final result, acts as a magnet that attracts the circumstances, people, and opportunities that will resonate with that vibration. Thus, the sensation of fulfillment and achievement extends as an inexorable force that shapes the surrounding reality. Every moment dedicated to this exercise of feeling is a decisive step toward the manifestation of the goal. By imagining with clarity and detail the experience of having achieved what is desired, patterns of thought and emotion are activated in the subconscious that, in the long run, materialize in the physical plane. This process is comparable to creating an internal mirror that reflects the state of the reality one longs to live. It is in that internal reflection where the path to the external is forged, and every experience lived in the realm of feeling acts as confirmation that the goal is, without a doubt, an imminent reality. Beyond being a technique, the act of assuming the feeling of the fulfilled desire is a philosophy of life. It involves living from the certainty that creative power resides in each of us and that reality is built from the quality and intensity of our emotions. It is adopting a stance of total responsibility over one's existence, where it is recognized that every thought and every feeling has the potential to influence the course of events. By internalizing the state of achievement, limiting beliefs are dismantled, and the door to a universe of infinite possibilities is open. It is important to highlight that this process is not instantaneous nor without effort. It requires continuous practice and a deep commitment to one's inner growth. At times, the mind may resist, clinging to old beliefs and resisting transformation. However, through perseverance and repetition, the state of the fulfilled feeling takes root in the subconscious level, making manifestation increasingly natural and spontaneous. With time, what was initially a deliberate practice becomes a way of being, in which the experience of achievement is lived continuously, regardless of external fluctuations. Finally, by adopting the feeling of the fulfilled desire, a fundamental truth is discovered. The internal experience is the precursor to external reality. Living from this state of anticipated gratitude and satisfaction, transforms life into a constant act of conscious creation. Every moment becomes an opportunity to reaffirm that what is desired already exists, and every sensation of fulfillment strengthens the belief in the limitless power of the mind. Thus, by practicing feeling as if the goal had already been achieved, a path of realization is forged that inexorably translates into the tangible manifestation of the deepest dreams. In synthesis, assuming the feeling of the fulfilled desire is an invitation to live in the state of anticipated realization, to experience the internal fulfillment that translates into profound and lasting changes in reality. It is an act of faith, discipline, and self-love that reminds us that the true magic of creation lies in the ability to transform thought into experience and desire into an unshakable reality. The law of attraction manifests as the bridge between our inner world and external experience, revealing that every emotion and thought is not a mere mental process, but an energetic vibration capable of shaping reality. This law teaches that what we feel and think radiates as energy, generating a frequency that, by resonating with the universe, attracts circumstances, people, and opportunities aligned with that same vibration. Every thought we harbor and every emotion we experience emits a unique vibration. When we cultivate feelings of love, gratitude, or joy, we generate an elevated frequency that not only transforms our internal state, but also acts as a magnet that draws experiences of abundance and well-being into our environment. Conversely, emotions like fear, doubt, or anger create low-frequency vibrations that in their manifestation can attract limitations and obstacles. It is in the conscious alignment of these emotional and mental states where the true essence of the law of attraction lies. By raising our internal vibration, we create the propitious conditions for the materialization of our desires. The underlying mechanism of this law is based on resonance. Just as a musical instrument, when played with the right intensity, emits a sound that can harmonize with other frequencies, our thoughts and emotions send signals to the universe. These signals, in turn, generate a chain reaction that materializes in the physical world. The key lies in maintaining internal coherence. When our thoughts, emotions, and intentions are in tune, a vibration so powerful is established that the universe cannot help but respond, delivering the circumstances that reflect that energy. One of the most effective methods for working with the law of attraction is creative visualization. This process consists of imagining with all the senses the reality in which our desires have already manifested. By doing so, we not only create clear mental images, but also evoke intense emotions associated with that state of fulfillment. This fusion of image and feeling becomes an energetic vibration that the universe interprets as an invitation to materialize what we have visualized. It is an exercise that, practiced with discipline and consistency, transforms the mind into a fertile field of creation, where every positive thought translates into a seed that germinates and flourishes in daily experience. The power of emotions in this context cannot be underestimated. Emotion is the catalyst that amplifies the energy of thought, giving it the strength needed to cross the barriers of the tangible. When we feel deeply and sincerely, our vibrations intensify and become irresistible to reality. This phenomenon explains why, in moments of great joy or gratitude, people seem to attract fortuitous situations and unexpected opportunities. Conversely, negative emotional states act as magnets that draw unfavorable circumstances. Therefore, cultivating elevated emotions becomes a deliberate and essential act in the path toward conscious manifestation. Another fundamental aspect of the law of attraction is the integration of the subconscious. Although our conscious thoughts direct attention toward our desires, it is at the subconscious level where deep patterns and beliefs take root. These patterns can work for or against our intentions. Therefore, the process of internal reprogramming through affirmations, meditation, and self-knowledge practices becomes crucial to align the subconscious vibration with the conscious vision. By doing so, a coherent energy flow is created that reinforces the intention and accelerates the manifestation process. The concept of energetic vibrations also invites us to understand the dynamic nature of time. In the universe of the law of attraction, past, present, and future intertwine in a continuum where every thought and every emotion generates an immediate response in reality. This perspective frees us from the rigidity of linear time, allowing us to live in a state of creative anticipation. By maintaining a high and constant vibration, we are in permanent tune with the possibilities of the future, and every moment becomes an opportunity to attract what is yet to manifest. The practical application of the law of attraction does not imply resigned passivity, but active participation in creating our life. It means taking responsibility for our thoughts and emotions, recognizing that we are the architects of our destiny. Every action we undertake, every decision we make, is an extension of the energy we have cultivated within. This empowering vision urges us to live consciously, to carefully select our emotional states, and to deliberately direct our attention toward what we wish to attract. On a broader level, the law of attraction teaches us the interconnectedness of all existence. By raising our personal vibration, we contribute to a collective energetic field that can transform not only our life, but also the shared reality. Every positive thought, every sincere emotion adds to the universal symphony of creation, elevating collective consciousness and paving the way for a more harmonious and abundant world. In synthesis, the law of attraction reveals that our emotions and thoughts are much more than mere internal states. They are energetic forces that shape our reality. By learning to tune into the vibration of our desires, raise our internal frequency, and act with coherence and passion, we open the doors to a universe where the invisible becomes tangible. This knowledge invites us to live consciously, recognizing that every thought, every emotion, is a note in the melody of existence. Thus, by mastering the vibration of thought, we become active creators of our destiny, transforming life into a constant act of conscious creation and manifestation. Creative visualization stands as the tool that allows us to shape the desired future in the canvas of the mind, turning dreams into vibrant images that transcend the mere act of imagining. This process is based on the ability to create internal scenarios so detailed and realistic that by feeling them with intensity, they become the tangible precursor to external reality. By practicing this technique, we immerse ourselves in a meditative state where every sense is activated to build the ideal scenario, making the experience complete and deeply transformative. The first step in creative visualization is finding a space of tranquility that invites silence and introspection. It is in this distraction-free environment that the mind opens and connects with the present, allowing us to detach from daily concerns. By closing our eyes and breathing deeply, we begin to disconnect from external noise and focus on constructing an internal image where every detail comes to life. This state of calm is fundamental as it lays the foundation for imagination to unfold without limits, becoming the brush that shapes our future. Once in this state of serenity, the process of painting the future begins. Imagine, for example, that your goal is to achieve professional success. Visualize a setting full of light and harmony where every element of the space, from the furniture to the atmosphere, aligns perfectly with your aspirations. Detail the color of the walls, the texture of the furniture, the background sounds, and even the scent that permeates the environment. It is not just about forming an image in the mind, but about invoking all the senses so that the experience is as real as possible. Every detail, every nuance, acts as a brushstroke that, when integrated, forms a complete picture of the ideal scenario. However, this practice goes beyond the simple creation of mental images. It is crucial that, while visualizing, the deep feeling of having already achieved that goal is activated. Emotion is the transformative element that brings the image to life, the force that turns visualization into an act of creation. By intensely feeling the joy, satisfaction, and gratitude of having achieved that success, an energetic vibration is established that extends beyond the mental plane and begins to influence the external world. It is at this point that visualization becomes a powerful tool for manifestation, as the mind and body synchronize with the frequency of achievement, attracting circumstances and opportunities that resonate with that internal state. To reinforce this process, incorporating positive affirmations is highly useful. Repeating softly or mentally phrases that confirm the reality of your desire, such as, "I am already living in abundance," or "My success is a present reality," strengthens the internal image, and seals the intention in the subconscious. The constant repetition of these affirmations acts as an echo that amplifies the vibration of thought and emotion, consolidating the belief that what is visualized is already part of your experience. Thus, every visualization session becomes an act of reaffirmation, where the mind grows accustomed to the sensation of achievement and gradually externalizes it in reality. Another complementary technique is guided meditation, which helps deepen the visualization process. Listening to a series of instructions that guide you through every aspect of the ideal scenario can make it easier for the mind to focus on specific details and activate all the senses. This method, by integrating visual and auditory elements, creates an internal environment where the image becomes more vivid and lasting, allowing the dream scenario to settle more firmly in the subconscious. With regular practice of guided meditation, visualization strengthens and becomes a powerful habit for shaping reality. Discipline is another essential pillar in the process of creative visualization. It is not enough to practice it occasionally. It must be integrated into the daily routine so that the mind learns to work in this state of constant creation. Every session, even if brief, contributes to reinforcing the internal belief that the desired future already exists in the realm of the possible. With time, visualization becomes second nature, reducing the gap between what is imagined and what is lived, allowing the ideal scenario to manifest almost naturally in daily experience. Finally, creative visualization is a process of self-discovery and empowerment. By learning to paint the future in the mind, we are not only tracing a path toward the realization of our dreams, but also becoming co-creators of our existence. Every image, every evoked sensation is a declaration of faith in the infinite capacity of the mind to transform reality. In this inner journey, the art of visualizing reveals itself as a sacred practice, where creativity merges with determination and feeling, giving rise to a process of conscious and profound manifestation. Thus, by mastering the technique of creative visualization, an infinite range of possibilities opens before us. The mind becomes the stage where the future is projected, and every imagined detail acts as a seed that, nourished by feeling and conviction, blossoms into reality. With every session, we paint our destiny with colors of hope, passion, and determination, proving that the power of the mind is truly limitless and that the future, no matter how distant it may seem, is already sketched on the inner canvas of our being. The power of the word is a sacred resource that, when used with intention and conviction, becomes the vehicle through which we reprogram the mind and consolidate beliefs that elevate our being. Every positive declaration we pronounce or internalize is a seed of transformation, capable of altering the framework of thoughts and emotions that have shaped our reality. By incorporating affirmations into our daily lives, we establish a powerful internal dialogue that reconfigures old patterns and paves the way for new ways of being and experiencing. Imagine every word as a vibration that resonates in the vastness of the universe. When we say, "I am abundant," or "my success is a present reality," we are not merely emitting sounds but activating energetic frequencies that intertwine with our subconscious. This process is similar to the action of an artist who, with every stroke, sculpts a masterpiece. Likewise, every positive affirmation is a stroke on the canvas of our mind that over time paints a truer and more elevated portrait of our potential. By repeating these declarations regularly, the subconscious begins to accept these affirmations as immutable truths, gradually eliminating limiting beliefs that have hindered our growth. The practice of affirmations is based on the recognition that words have creative power. This concept, so present in the teachings of mystics and philosophers, invites us to be conscious of the language we use, both in internal dialogue and in our daily interactions. The transformation of our thought begins within, and it is there that affirmations play a fundamental role, reprogramming the mind through a language that celebrates possibility, abundance, and self-love. This conscious act of linguistic choice is, in essence, an act of faith in the mind's ability to transcend its limits and embrace new realities. The process of reprogramming through affirmations requires discipline that manifests in consistency and intention. It is not enough to utter words randomly. It is necessary to formulate declarations that align with our deepest desires and aspirations. By doing so, every affirmation becomes a statement of intentionality that reinforces the image of a capable and worthy self, deserving of the best life has to offer. This practice, when carried out persistently, gradually dissolves the barriers of skepticism and replaces old thought patterns with new states of consciousness that favor the manifestation of the positive. One of the keys to harnessing the power of affirmations is the fusion of thought with feeling. It is not enough to repeat a phrase, it is essential to feel it with intensity and conviction. By emotionally experiencing the affirmation, a deep connection is established between the conscious thought and the subconscious, creating a resonance that enhances the transformation process. For example, by affirming "I am whole and fulfilled" and accompanying it with a profound sense of gratitude and happiness, the intention is sealed in the heart, sending a vibration that the universe cannot ignore. This fusion of word and emotion acts as a magnet, attracting circumstances, people, and opportunities that confirm the new inner belief. The deliberate use of affirmations also invites us to take active responsibility for our reality. By consciously choosing the words with which we express ourselves, we cease to be mere passive observers and become the architects of our destiny. Every affirmation is a tool that allows us to design and build the life we desire, connecting us with the infinite source of creativity and possibility that resides within. Moreover, the power of the word transcends the personal sphere and extends to our environment. When we adopt a positive and uplifting language, we not only reprogram our mind, but also influence the atmosphere around us. Affirmations become a collective vibration that can transform relationships, work environments, and communities, generating a ripple effect of positivity and growth. This synergy between the individual and the collective underscores the importance of maintaining internal coherence, as what we affirm with conviction within reflects in the external reality. The integration of affirmations into daily life is, therefore, a process of self-discovery and empowerment. By verbalizing and feeling our highest truths, we break the chains of self-imposition and open ourselves to a world of limitless possibilities. Every affirmation is a step toward liberation from old beliefs, an act of faith in the transformative capacity of the mind. Over time, this process not only reconnects us with our inner power, but also allows us to live in a state of constant evolution, where every word and every thought aligns with the creative flow of the universe. In synthesis, the power of the word and affirmations lies in their ability to reprogram the mind and consolidate beliefs that favor the manifestation of a fuller and more harmonious reality. By consciously choosing our words and accompanying them with intense feelings, we activate an internal vibration that transforms the landscape of our existence. This act of conscious creation invites us to take responsibility for our destiny, cultivate a positive internal dialogue, and trust in the infinite capacity of the mind to sculpt the life of our dreams. Every affirmation becomes a testament to the creative power we carry within, reminding us that we are, ultimately, the architects of our own reality. Living in the present is embracing the truth that the only real moment is the now, the instant in which the fabric of manifestation is woven and the essence of our desires materializes. In this point of convergence between thought and existence, the past dissolves into memory and the future unfolds as a possibility, while the present acts as the primordial portal through which all creation comes to life. By focusing our attention on the now, we free ourselves from the shackles of past experiences and uncertain projections, allowing us to interact with the vital energy that resides in the current moment. The present is that sacred space where mind and heart align to tune into the frequency of creation. It is in this instant that intention becomes action and visualization turns into manifestation. By immersing ourselves in the experience of the now, every thought intertwines with a unique vibration that, combined with the emotion of the moment, acts as a magnet capable of attracting circumstances and opportunities aligned with our essence. The key lies in recognizing that the past has already happened, and the future is still uncertain. The only thing we can influence and transform is this present instant, where creative energy flows freely. Practicing living in the present is, in essence, an exercise in mindfulness and self-awareness. It consists of detaching from internal and external distractions that pull us toward thoughts of yesterday or tomorrow and instead focusing on the richness of the current moment. This practice invites us to savor every detail, the scent of the breeze, the murmur of the environment, the beating of our own heart. By being fully present, we open ourselves to the direct experience of life, allowing the vibration of the now to become the foundation upon which our realities are built. The relevance of the present moment manifests in its ability to be the only point of encounter between intention and action. It is in this temporal framework that doubts, fears, and self-imposed limitations vanish, and the flame of conscious creation is ignited. When we stop worrying about what is past or what might happen, the mind is freed to focus on the transformative power of the now. This concentration is not a mere act of evasion, but a commitment to the authenticity of being, where every experience becomes an opportunity to reaffirm our innate capacity to create and transform. The now is also the fertile ground where the seeds of dreams and aspirations are cultivated. By living in this moment of complete presence, ideas and intentions are charged with such vibrant energy that they translate into actions that reconfigure reality. Every second lived consciously is a brushstroke on the canvas of existence, contributing to the design of a destiny that is, in essence, a personal creation. Living in the present also implies a profound inner transformation. By letting go of past narratives that often chain us to painful memories or concluded successes, and not anticipating an uncertain future. With anxiety or excessive expectations, we learn to recognize the magic that inhabits the present moment. This act of liberation allows us to reconnect with our inner power, and through that connection, activate the manifestation process. It is in this state of mindfulness and total acceptance that we discover the truth that life unfolds in a series of perfect moments, ready to be shaped according to our purest desires. Likewise, focusing on the present helps us develop a more harmonious relationship with ourselves and our environment. By practicing mindfulness, we become aware of every thought, every sensation, and every emotion, which gives us the possibility to respond consciously rather than react automatically. This capacity for conscious response is essential for channeling creative energy positively, allowing every experience, no matter how insignificant it seems, to become a firm step toward the realization of our longings. The now, being the only moment in which we act, transforms into the ultimate tool for sculpting a fulfilling life aligned with our true essence. In essence, the present is the privileged stage where creation is forged. By living in the now, we position ourselves at the intersection of intention and manifestation, where every action, every thought, and every emotion becomes a vibration that shapes our destiny. This practice of presence not only frees us from the shadows of the past and the uncertainties of the future, but also empowers us to take the reins of our own existence. By recognizing that manifestation occurs in the present moment, we commit to living every second with attention, gratitude, and purpose, knowing that in that precise moment resides the infinite power of creation. Adopting the now as the portal of creation is, ultimately, a call to authenticity and conscious transformation. It is a constant reminder that life, in its entirety, unfolds in the present, and that every experience is an opportunity to reaffirm our capacity to create and transform. In this sense, living in the present stands as a philosophy of life, a continuous practice that invites us to be witnesses and active participants in the magic that occurs in every instant, consolidating the unbreakable bridge between the inner self and external reality. Discipline and persistence are two fundamental pillars in the path of conscious manifestation, as they constitute the means through which the habit of maintaining elevated and focused thoughts on what is desired is cultivated. This practice demands a continuous commitment, a deliberate choice to direct the mind toward states of consciousness that reflect our deepest longings, and to renounce distractions and conditioning that distance us from creating a reality in tune with our inner self. From the first moment we decide to take responsibility for our thoughts, we understand that the mind is a fertile field in which every idea and emotion becomes a seed of the future. Mental discipline, in this context, is not just about controlling or suppressing negative thoughts, but about training the mind to maintain a constant flow of ideas, images, and emotions that align with the vision of success and fulfillment. It is an exercise in self-awareness that requires constant vigilance over internal dialogue, identifying and replacing limiting thought patterns with those that nurture and elevate our internal vibration. Persistence is the indispensable companion of this discipline. The manifestation of our desires may require time, and at times the path is filled with obstacles, doubts, or moments when external evidence seems to contradict our intentions. However, it is in those moments of challenge that persistence becomes the driving force that propels us forward. Maintaining a disciplined and persistent mind is accepting that every positive thought, every affirmation, and every act of visualization is an investment in the desired future, even when progress seems slow or invisible to the eyes of the external world. To cultivate this habit, it is essential to incorporate daily practices that strengthen the capacity for concentration and mental reprogramming. Meditation, for example, presents itself as a powerful tool to quiet the incessant flow of scattered thoughts and center attention in the here and now. During these moments of introspection, the mind becomes receptive to the repetition of positive affirmations and the visualization of fulfilled goals, processes that, carried out with consistency, reconfigure the subconscious and tune it to the frequency of success. Every meditation session is, in itself, an act of discipline that strengthens the ability to remain focused on what is desired, dispelling the fog of doubt and anxiety. Another effective technique is the regular exercise of journaling, which consists of consciously writing down thoughts, goals, and emotions. This process allows us to observe the mental flow, identify patterns that need transformation, and celebrate every advance, no matter how small it seems. Writing becomes a mirror that reflects the internal state and helps keep the mind aligned with objectives, consolidating discipline by forcing us to order and clarify the internal vision. Over time, this habit strengthens persistence, as every record is a tangible reminder of personal evolution and the mind's unwavering capacity to create. It is important to recognize that mental discipline and persistence are not innate qualities, but skills developed through practice and dedication. Just as a muscle strengthens with constant exercise, the mind trains to sustain elevated thoughts through conscious repetition and internal reprogramming. Every challenge we face in this process becomes an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to conscious creation, transforming obstacles into stepping stones that bring us closer to the realization of our dreams. In this sense, persistence manifests as the ability to continue even when circumstances do not seem to favor progress, trusting that every effort counts and that the vibration of our thoughts will eventually align with external experiences. Mental discipline also implies an act of liberation from inherited beliefs and conditioning that over time have limited our creative potential. By consciously choosing to maintain elevated thoughts, we shed the narrative of "I can't" or "I'm not enough" and embrace the possibility of being and doing more. This shift in perspective is based on the certainty that the mind, when focused and persistent, is capable of reshaping reality, opening doors to opportunities and experiences that once seemed unattainable. Every disciplined thought transforms into an affirmation of power, a reminder that we are the architects of our destiny. The art of revision, transforming the past, is an inner process that invites us to release the weight of old experiences, to reconfigure the perception of the present. This technique consists of mentally rewriting those experiences that, over time, have forged a distorted image of ourselves and reality, allowing us to transform the past into a source of strength and wisdom. By immersing ourselves in this art, we give ourselves the opportunity to look back with new eyes, reinterpreting every episode from a place of understanding and self-love, so that from this act, a renewed and liberating perception emerges. The first step in the revision process is awareness. It involves identifying those past experiences that have become etched in our memory and that, in some way, continue to affect our present. Often, these memories have turned into internal narratives that limit our self-worth, generating feelings of guilt, fear, or inadequacy. By recognizing these narratives, we begin to understand that they are not the absolute truth, but mental constructions that we can modify. This awareness is akin to watching a movie in which we are both the protagonist and the director. allowing us to intervene in the story to correct errors and highlight positive aspects. Once these experiences are identified, the conscious practice of revision follows. This process requires an attitude of openness and courage to confront what once caused us pain or marked us negatively. The technique consists of reliving the experience in the mind, but this time from a different perspective, as if we were a wise and compassionate observer. Imagine, for example, a painful memory from the past. By mentally revisiting it, allow yourself to observe every detail with the clarity of the present, recognizing that that event occurred at a specific moment and no longer holds the same power over you today. By doing so, you are not only rewriting the memory, but also transforming the meaning you attribute to it, releasing the emotional burden that accompanies it. The art of revision is based on the power of intention and visualization. Just as in creative visualization, in this process, it is essential to imagine with detail the change you wish to manifest in that experience. For example, you can visualize a version of the memory in which you feel protected, loved, and empowered. Allow yourself to feel deeply the emotion of having overcome that obstacle, the sensation of peace, and the certainty that the past does not define the present. This act of mental rewriting does not involve denying what happened, but transforming it into a valuable lesson that contributes to personal growth. With every visualization, the perception of the past is renewed, and little by little, the pain transfigures into wisdom and an inner strength that propels you toward a brighter future. Conscious revision also relies on the use of affirmations and meditation. Repeating phrases that reaffirm your power to transform the past, such as, "I release the weight of my history," or "Every experience has taught and strengthened me," helps reprogram the mind and consolidate the new interpretation of those memories. Meditation, on the other hand, acts as a sacred space in which you can delve into the deepest part of your being and reconnect with the pure essence that resides in you. During meditation, it becomes easier to observe the flow of thoughts and emotions without identifying with them, allowing the revision process to occur naturally and without resistance. Another important dimension of this art is forgiveness, both toward oneself and toward those who may have contributed to creating those painful memories. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, but recognizing that every experience, no matter how adverse, has contributed to shaping the person you are today. By releasing resentment and embracing compassion, an internal space is created for revision to take effect, allowing the past to integrate into the present in a healing way. In this sense, the act of forgiving oneself becomes a liberating ritual that restructures the personal narrative and strengthens inner power. With time and practice, the process of revising the past transforms into a tool for continuous growth. Every time you allow yourself to rewrite an experience, you are not only alleviating an emotional burden, but also building a stronger foundation for your present and future. The mind, freed from the shackles of old pain, becomes more receptive to possibilities and the creation of a reality in which authenticity and self-love prevail. In summary, the art of revision is a path of inner transformation that invites us to mentally rewrite the past to alter the perception of the present. It is a process of self-awareness, visualization, affirmation, and forgiveness that allows us to reconstruct the narrative of our lives from a perspective of empowerment and liberation. By transforming past experiences, we reconfigure reality, opening the doors to a present full of potential and a future in which the true essence of our being manifests without limitations. Every act of revision is a decisive step toward a fuller life, where the past integrates harmoniously into the present and becomes the foundation upon which an authentic and powerful existence is built. The inner silence and meditation are a journey toward the essence of oneself, a path in which it is discovered that, amidst the hustle and bustle of the world, there exists an immutable sanctuary where the mind clears and strengthens. In the constant busyness of modern life, external distractions and the endless torrent of thoughts can cloud perception and divert attention from what truly matters. It is precisely in those moments of apparent stillness, in the silence that settles within, where the door opens to a mental clarity that allows us not only to understand the true nature of the self, but also to access an inexhaustible creative power. Inner silence should not be confused with the mere absence of noise. It is a state of consciousness in which external sounds fade and, more importantly, the internal dialogue quiets. By achieving this state, the mind frees itself from repetitive thoughts, worries, and anxieties that usually overwhelm it. In this space of calm, one can hear the deep voice of the soul, the one that guides with wisdom and allows discernment between what is essential and what is superfluous. Meditation acts as the bridge that leads us to this state of serenity, facilitating connection with the most authentic self and revealing the immensity of our potential. Meditating involves more than simply sitting in silence. It is an exercise in conscious observation that invites us to accept every thought without judging it, to allow it to arise and dissolve without clinging to it. In this process, we learn to be witnesses to our mental activity, which gives us the ability to discern between thoughts that limit us and those that, in contrast, empower us. The regular practice of meditation trains the mind to become more receptive and flexible, strengthening the capacity to focus on the present moment and respond to situations with clarity and calm. The experience of inner silence transforms into a state of deep contemplation in which the mind becomes clear and powerful. By reducing mental noise, it becomes possible to access an internal source of inspiration and creativity. It is in this state that the most brilliant ideas and insightful solutions arise, as the mind, stripped of confusion and stress, opens to intuition and innate wisdom. Meditation, by calming the tumult of thoughts, allows the subconscious to express itself more freely, revealing aspects of reality that would otherwise remain hidden behind the tangle of daily worries. In practice, achieving inner silence requires discipline and consistency. Starting with brief periods of meditation, dedicating just a few minutes a day to sitting in silence can make a difference. With time, these moments of stillness expand and become an integral part of the daily routine, transforming the way life is perceived. By establishing a sacred space for meditation, one learns to recognize the importance of pausing, breathing, and reconnecting with the purest essence of the self. This deliberate act of pausing is, in itself, a reminder that true wealth is not found in the coming and going of external activities, but in the ability to be present and conscious in every instant. Meditation not only brings mental benefits, but also positively influences the body and emotions. By reducing stress and fostering a state of calm, physical health improves, the immune system strengthens, and emotions balance. The connection between mind and body becomes evident in how regular meditation practice relieves tension, promotes better sleep quality, and fosters a sense of well-being. This state of balance reflects in every aspect of life, allowing challenges to be faced with a serene attitude and a clear mind. Likewise, inner silence and meditation invite deep reflection on the nature of time and existence. In the stillness of calm, it is revealed that the past and future are mental constructions, while the only real moment is the present. By meditating, one learns to value every moment as a unique opportunity to create and transform reality. This perspective changes the relationship with life, urging us to act with greater intention and direct our thoughts toward the manifestation of what we truly desire. Full presence in the now becomes the foundation upon which dreams are built, as in inner silence lies the key to unlocking the power of the mind. Finally, finding in silence a contemplation of a clear and powerful mind is not only an individual practice, but also an invitation to transform how we relate to the world. By nurturing a mind at peace, a positive energy is radiated that impacts personal relationships and the environment. The mental clarity obtained through meditation allows for wiser decision-making, stronger responses to challenges, and, in general, a more conscious and fulfilling life. Thus, inner silence reveals itself as a powerful tool that not only improves personal quality of life, but also has the potential to influence collective transformation, inspiring others to seek that state of peace and clarity. In conclusion, inner silence and meditation constitute the portal to a clear and powerful mind. By practicing contemplation and mindfulness, we shed mental confusion and noise, making way for a clarity that allows us to connect with our deepest potential. This state of serenity and self-knowledge is the foundation upon which lives of creativity, wisdom, and fulfillment are built. By learning to find peace within, we discover that true transformation begins from the inside and that in silence resides the strength needed to shape a reality full of possibilities and authenticity. The synergy between mind, body, and spirit constitutes the very essence of full manifestation, as each of these aspects interrelates to form the integral being that experiences and creates reality. In this process, the mind does not operate in isolation, but is influenced by and, in turn, influences the body and spirit, generating a flow of energy that allows thoughts to transform into actions and, subsequently, into vital experiences. Understanding this interconnection is recognizing that the optimal state of each of these elements is indispensable for creative potential to unfold without obstacles. First, the mind represents the center of consciousness, the space where thoughts, emotions, and intentions are born. It is in this internal realm where ideas are formed and beliefs are cultivated that, in turn, shape how we perceive and respond to the world. When the mind aligns with positive and constructive thoughts, a vibration is created that influences how we act and relate to others. However, for the mind to exercise its maximum potential, it needs to be nourished and harmonized with the body and spirit. This implies that while cultivating an elevated and focused mentality, we must pay attention to how it manifests in our physical state and the depth of our spiritual essence. The body, for its part, is the vehicle through which ideas materialize and emotions are expressed. It is the tangible support of existence, and its state of health and vitality is a direct reflection of the internal energy we harbor. When the body is in balance, with proper nutrition, regular exercise, and sufficient rest, it becomes a powerful ally for the manifestation of desires and goals. The spirit, often considered the immaterial and eternal core of the being, represents the connection with the divine essence and the deepest intuition. It is in the spirit where inspiration, ancestral wisdom, and the sense of purpose that guides life reside. When the spirit is nourished through practices like meditation, contemplation, and self-knowledge, an elevated perception awakens that allows us to see beyond the limitations imposed by the mind and body. This spiritual connection offers a holistic perspective of existence, reminding us that we are part of a greater whole and that our actions have an impact on the universal fabric. The spirit, when in tune with the mind and body, acts as the bridge that unites the earthly with the divine, granting profound meaning to every experience. True synergy is achieved when mind, body, and spirit work in harmony. This state of interaction is the result of a conscious commitment to self-knowledge and inner transformation. For example, when practicing meditation, not only is the mind calmed, but the body relaxes and a channel opens for the spirit to express itself fully. Similarly, a healthy diet and physical exercise not only benefit the body, but also influence mental clarity and spiritual connection, creating a virtuous circle that reinforces the capacity to manifest desires. Every deliberate action, every cultivated habit in daily life can become a ritual that strengthens the interconnection of these three aspects, making internal energy transform into a creative force that influences reality. When this synergy is integrated, a profound transformation is experienced in how we interact with life. The mind, freed from negative patterns and focused on clear objectives, becomes a precise tool for visualization and conscious creation. The body, in tune with this energy, becomes agile, receptive, and full of vitality, allowing every action to be a reflection of internal intention. And the spirit, nourished by connection with the divine, provides the intuition and wisdom necessary to guide decisions and overcome challenges. This interaction makes it possible for the individual to become an active co-creator of their destiny, capable of transforming every experience into an opportunity for growth and the manifestation of their limitless potential. Moreover, the synergy between mind, body, and spirit transcends the individual realm and impacts the environment and community. When each person commits to aligning their three aspects, a collective vibration is generated that can transform relationships, work environments, and entire communities. The elevation of individual consciousness reflects in how we interact with others and how we contribute to a more harmonious and conscious world. In this sense, the process of personal integration becomes a transformative force on a global level, reminding us that every internal change has the potential to generate a positive impact on the shared reality. In conclusion, understanding and cultivating the synergy between mind, body, and spirit is essential for achieving full and conscious manifestation. The interconnection of these three aspects invites us to recognize that true transformation is not limited to changing isolated thoughts or habits, but to integrating the totality of our being into a harmonious flow of creative energy. By aligning the mind with positive thoughts, nourishing the body with care and movement, and opening the spirit to inner wisdom, a state of balance is created that enhances the capacity to create the desired reality. This commitment to full integration is the key that unlocks the infinite potential of life, reminding us that we are integral beings and that conscious manifestation is the reflection of a life lived in harmony with our deepest essence. The self-image is the internal representation of who we are, a reflection of our beliefs, emotions, and experiences accumulated over time. In the path of conscious manifestation, redefining the internal identity becomes a vital process to align our being with the desired state. This process of self-knowledge invites us to look into the inner mirror, to observe without prejudice the image we have built of ourselves, and to transform it to align with the reality we aspire to create. When we manage to see ourselves as the successful, fulfilled, and abundant person we wish to be, the mind reprograms itself, and consequently, our actions and experiences begin to reflect that new identity. The first step in this journey is becoming aware of the beliefs and narratives that have shaped our self-image throughout life. The environment, experiences, and conditioning have woven a web of ideas about our capabilities, limitations, and intrinsic worth. Often these messages have turned into negative internal affirmations like, "I am not enough," or "I don't deserve success," which, despite their origin, have become almost automatic in our being. Self-knowledge involves identifying those thought patterns that no longer serve us and questioning their validity. This act of introspection requires honesty and courage, as only by facing our shadows can we begin to transform them. Once these limiting beliefs are identified, the next step is to rewrite the internal narrative. This process consists of replacing negative ideas with affirmations that reflect the desired state. For example, transforming the thought "I cannot achieve it" into "I am on the path to achieving my dreams" is an affirmation exercise that, when repeated with conviction, reconfigures the self-image. The key lies in feeling each affirmation intensely, allowing the emotion of having achieved that ideal to penetrate the deepest part of the conscious mind. By doing so, the mind begins to operate in alignment with the new image we wish to project. And little by little, actions and decisions align with that internal state of power and fulfillment. Self-knowledge also feeds on the conscious observation of internal dialogue. Through practices like meditation and journaling, we can learn to listen to the inner voice without judging it, identifying those words or thoughts that undermine our self-esteem. In this process, writing becomes a transformative tool. By putting our fears, insecurities, and aspirations on paper, a tangible record is created that allows us to analyze and modify the narrative we have adopted over time. This exercise of reflection translates into greater control over the mind, enabling us to direct our thoughts toward a renewed and empowered self-image. Reconfiguring the internal identity is also an act of self-love. By recognizing and valuing our strengths, capacities, and learnings, a solid foundation is created upon which to build a positive image of ourselves. This process does not mean denying mistakes or difficult lessons from the past, but integrating them constructively to enhance personal growth. Every experience, no matter how challenging, transforms into a lesson that reinforces the knowledge that we are capable of evolving and overcoming any obstacle. Thus, self-knowledge becomes a path of forgiveness and acceptance, where learning to love oneself is the cornerstone for manifesting a reality aligned with our dreams. The transformation of the self-image also reflects in how we interact with the environment. When we begin to see ourselves as capable, deserving, and full of potential, the energy we emit aligns with that new vision. The opportunities that arise in life cease to be fortuitous and become the natural result of a strengthened internal identity. This change not only impacts the personal realm, but also influences our relationships, professional performance, and capacity to attract positive experiences. The mind, by accepting the new self-image, acts as a magnet that attracts circumstances and people that resonate with that elevated vibration. Another fundamental aspect in this process is visualization. By vividly imagining the version of ourselves we wish to be, a bridge is created between the current state and the desired ideal. Visualization is not a mere mental exercise, but a sensory experience in which every detail is constructed with precision, from how we see ourselves to how we feel in that state of fulfillment. By practicing visualization regularly, the mind grows accustomed to the new image, and what was initially an aspiration becomes a constant internal experience. This technique, combined with affirmations in meditation, reinforces the reprogramming of the self-image, making the change manifest progressively in every aspect of life. Finally, redefining the internal identity is a continuous and dynamic process. The self-image is not a fixed state, but a reflection in constant evolution of our growth and learning. As we advance in our path of self-knowledge, it is natural that the image we have of ourselves transforms and enriches with new experiences. Every achievement, every overcome challenge, and every learned lesson contributes to the formation of a more authentic and powerful identity. This cycle of transformation reminds us that the power of manifestation lies in the ability to reinvent ourselves, in the confidence that we can always align with the desired state and live in fullness. In summary, the self-image and self-knowledge are fundamental for reprogramming the internal identity and reflecting the desired state in reality. By identifying and questioning limiting beliefs, replacing them with positive affirmations, and cultivating deep self-love, a new mental framework is created that acts as the foundation of conscious manifestation. Through introspection, meditation, and visualization, the mind reconfigures, allowing the individual to see themselves in an empowered and possibility-filled way. This process not only transforms internal perception, but also radiates outward, creating a life in which every action and every experience is the reflection of a truly renewed identity aligned with the deepest dreams. Gratitude is the master key that opens the doors to a constant flow of blessings and positive experiences. When we embrace gratitude as a transformative force, we shift our perspective and consequently, the reality that surrounds us. This conscious act of recognizing and appreciating what we have, even before it materializes, generates a vibration of love and abundance that attracts new opportunities and consolidates an internal state of fullness. Imagine gratitude as a magnet that draws the best of the universe. By focusing on what is already good in our lives, no matter how small it may seem, we establish a deep connection with the energy of abundance. Every grateful thought acts as a seed that, when watered with genuine feelings, blossoms into tangible manifestations. This process not only fills us with joy, but also reinforces the belief that the universe always conspires in our favor. By cultivating an attitude of gratitude, we align with the frequency of prosperity and positivity, inviting more moments of joy to integrate into our daily experience. The practice of gratitude is an exercise that can be incorporated into every moment of life. It begins by pausing, breathing deeply, and taking a journey through the small gifts that existence offers us: the warmth of a hug, the aroma of morning coffee, the smile of a loved one, the beauty of a natural landscape. These moments, though sometimes overlooked, are testimonies of the abundance that surrounds us. By recognizing and appreciating each of these details, we are sending the universe a clear message of appreciation and openness, creating a virtuous circle in which the positive multiplies. Moreover, gratitude has the power to reconfigure how we perceive challenges and difficulties. Instead of seeing obstacles as failures or insurmountable tests, gratitude invites us to consider them as opportunities for learning and growth. Every adverse situation can be reinterpreted as a lesson that, in the long run, strengthens us and prepares us to achieve greater goals. By giving thanks even for difficult experiences, we release the burden of resentment and fear, allowing inner transformation to occur. This shift in perspective not only lightens the soul, but also paves the way for the manifestation of desires to happen more naturally and without resistance. Integrating gratitude into our lives also implies a commitment to the present. It is in the now where reality is forged, and by centering our thoughts on what we already possess and what we are thankful for, We create an anchor that prevents us from falling into the trap of discontent and dissatisfaction. Gratitude invites us to live fully in the present, to savor every instant, and to recognize that in this moment we are already deserving of all the good life has to offer. This state of presence and thankfulness provides the clarity needed to see the opportunities that emerge in our path, and at the same time helps us consolidate those positive experiences we have already lived. Another fundamental aspect is that gratitude manifests both on a personal and collective level. By practicing it individually, our vibration rises and radiates to our surroundings, impacting the people around us. When we share our gratitude, we create an environment of reciprocity and love, where every act of gratitude becomes a seed that, when germinated, benefits the community as a whole. This exchange of positive energies has the power to transform relationships, strengthen bonds, and build a social fabric based on trust and mutual appreciation. Thus, gratitude expands beyond the individual, generating a ripple effect that elevates collective consciousness and opens the doors to a shared experience of abundance. In daily practice, keeping a gratitude journal can be helpful. By writing down each day the aspects we feel thankful for, we reinforce in our minds the reality of abundance and learn to focus on the positive, even amidst adversity. This practice becomes a powerful tool for reprogramming the subconscious, replacing thoughts of lack with beliefs of fullness. Over time, what began as a conscious exercise transforms into a way of being, where gratitude is felt naturally and reflected in every action, decision, and experience. On the other hand, gratitude also connects us with our spiritual dimension. By recognizing the beauty and mystery that surround us, we feel a deep connection with something greater than ourselves. This sense of spiritual connection strengthens faith and trust in the process of life, reminding us that every experience, both good and challenging, has a purpose in our path. Spiritual gratitude helps us see beyond the surface and understand that existence is a divine gift, where every moment is sacred and worthy of celebration. In summary, adopting gratitude as a transformative force involves much more than simply saying thank you. It is a deep commitment to life, a conscious decision to see and appreciate the beauty in every detail, to transform challenges into opportunities for growth, and to create an internal and external environment of abundance and positivity. By doing so, we not only attract and consolidate positive experiences, but also reconfigure reality in a way that reflects the fullness and love inherent in our being. Gratitude in its purest form is the vibration that connects us with the eternal flow of the universe, reminding us that every day is a new opportunity to create, give thanks, and live in abundance. The subconscious is the silent guardian of creative power, a vast reservoir of memories, emotions, beliefs, and experiences that, when operating in harmony with the conscious mind, allows us to transform our reality. In the framework of our being, the conscious mind acts as the director that intentionally chooses thoughts and objectives, while the subconscious, like a tireless artist, takes charge of materializing those visions through patterns and habits rooted in the deepest part of our existence. This symbiotic relationship is the key to understanding how, by learning to dialogue with and reprogram our subconscious, we can access limitless creative power. Since ancient times, sages and mystics have recognized that the true source of creation resides in the unconscious. It is said that the subconscious knows no boundaries, operating beyond time and space, merging past memories with future possibilities to shape the present. Like a hidden garden within the mind, seeds are cultivated that can blossom into ideas, attitudes, and concrete manifestations. Every conscious thought, every deliberate intention, is like a seed that, when deposited in this fertile ground, germinates and transforms into experiences that shape our destiny. The conscious mind and the subconscious work complementarily. While the former selects and organizes the information we pay attention to, the subconscious stores and processes all that data, even what goes unnoticed. This duality creates a bridge between what we desire and what we actually experience. For example, when one focuses on a goal with conviction, the conscious mind formulates detailed plans and visualizations. At the same time, the subconscious adjusts deep beliefs and activates automatic responses that subtly pave the way for the manifestation of that desire. In this process, repetition and emotion play crucial roles as every intense affirmation or visualization imprints itself on the subconscious, consolidating as a new directive that guides our actions and decisions. The practice of techniques such as meditation, creative visualization, and the use of positive affirmations is fundamental for accessing and reprogramming the power of the subconscious. By entering a meditative state, for example, we manage to quiet the noise of conscious thought and establish an intimate dialogue with that deep part of ourselves. In that silence, the vastness of the subconscious is revealed, allowing us to objectively observe the patterns and beliefs that often limit us. With this knowledge, it is possible to replace those restrictive thoughts with new images and emotions that empower and direct the manifestation of our longings. Every visualization session, when accompanied by an intense feeling of gratitude or fullness, strengthens the connection between the conscious mind and the subconscious, transforming reality from the emotional vibration generated. The subconscious, therefore, acts as the true engine behind conscious creation. It does not limit itself to receiving orders, but interprets and translates the impulses of thought into concrete actions and decisions. It is here where its transformative power lies, as through the reprogramming of internal patterns, we can free ourselves from limiting beliefs and open ourselves to a universe of possibilities. By recognizing that the root of our experiences lies in the constant interaction between the conscious mind and the subconscious, we acquire the ability to modify our destiny, adjusting the foundations of our thoughts so that every new intention becomes a tangible reality. It is important to highlight that harmony between these two levels of the mind is not achieved immediately, but is the result of a constant commitment to self-knowledge and personal transformation. Every time we strive to cultivate elevated thoughts and maintain a positive attitude, we are sending powerful signals to the subconscious, which upon receiving these vibrations begins to act accordingly. Likewise, it is vital to learn to listen to the subtle messages emanating from that deep interior, as they hold the keys to unlocking hidden talents and resolving internal conflicts that could otherwise sabotage our conscious efforts. In this sense, the subconscious is also the guardian of intuition, that silent voice that guides us in moments of uncertainty and often reveals solutions that the logical mind cannot grasp. By learning to trust this intuition, to pay attention to hunches and the images that arise in states of deep relaxation, we strengthen the connection between the conscious and the unconscious. This fusion allows us to act fluidly and creatively, leveraging the ancestral wisdom hidden within to make decisions that align with the true purpose of our existence. In essence, exploring the role of the subconscious as the guardian of creative power invites us to recognize that the key to transforming our reality lies in the balance and interaction of all levels of our being. By learning to dialogue with our subconscious, to reprogram it with love and discipline, and to align every thought and emotion with our highest objectives, we become conscious co-creators of our lives. This integration opens the doors to limitless potential, where every experience, every challenge, transforms into an opportunity to manifest the reality we truly desire. Living personal responsibility and creating reality is the fundamental pillar that empowers us to shape our destiny from every thought and emotion we harbor. In this process of conscious manifestation, every idea is akin to a seed, and every feeling is the vibration that nourishes and makes that seed germinate in the fertile ground of our existence. By accepting that we are co-creators of our lives, we understand that no event happens by chance, but is the direct result of the energy we emit through our interior. From a deep and transformative perspective, personal responsibility urges us to assume the role of architects of our reality. This involves recognizing that we are not at the mercy of uncontrollable external forces, but that every thought, no matter how insignificant it seems, has the power to influence the fabric of our experiences. Just as a seed needs soil, water, and light to grow, our emotions and thoughts require an internal environment of positivity, faith, and determination to materialize the dreams we hold. Every vibratory emotion becomes a brick in the construction of our future, and every thought is a directive that guides the path toward what we wish to experience. Assuming this responsibility means freeing ourselves from the illusion that life happens by chance. It is a call to look inward and observe with honesty how our beliefs and attitudes shape the environment. For example, when we cultivate thoughts of abundance and love, we are sowing a fertile field for opportunities and enriching relationships to flourish. Conversely, if we allow fear, doubt, or anger to dominate our internal dialogue, we create an environment conducive to the emergence of obstacles and limitations. In this sense, clarity and intention become indispensable tools. By consciously directing our thoughts, we are, in essence, choosing the type of reality we wish to live. This understanding also invites us to reflect on the importance of internal coherence. Personal responsibility in creating reality is not a theoretical exercise, but a daily practice that feeds on discipline and commitment to our own growth. Every morning upon waking, we are presented with a new opportunity to align our thoughts with the goals we long to achieve. It is in that precise moment, when we decide to focus the mind on the positive and release negative emotions, that the seed of a day full of possibilities is planted. The practice of meditation, reflective writing, and the repetition of affirmations are methods that reinforce this connection between conscious thought and real manifestation, reminding us that we are responsible for every detail of our existence. Assuming personal responsibility also frees us from the tendency to blame external factors for adverse circumstances. When we understand that life is a reflection of our internal state, we realize that every challenge is, in reality, an invitation to readjust our vibration and strengthen our faith in creative power. Instead of lamenting what did not go as expected, we can see every situation as a choice that brings us closer to the most authentic and powerful version of ourselves. This transformative attitude is based on the knowledge that every negative thought, if cultivated with persistence over time, will become a barrier that prevents the flourishing of new opportunities.